I don't know what that was.
Someone's news is on.
Nice and quiet. There won't be a lot.
Thanks. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Conservation Commission meeting. I have to read this, so be patient. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law 30A, paragraph 18, in the governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on a number of people that may gather in one place. It was extended on June 15 of 2021, with the governor signing Senate Bill 2475. Suspending certain provisions in the open meeting law allows people, allowing public bodies greater flexibility in utilizing technology in the conduct of meetings under the open meeting law. This meeting of the Peabody Conservation Commission is conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. No in-person attendance of members of the public would be permitted. Every effort is made to ensure the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so on matters not requiring public hearing, we will post on the city Peabody's website audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive recording as soon as possible after the meeting. Where am I at here? Those in attendance right now are myself, Vice Chairman Mike Rizzo, Secretary Mike Valdo, Arthur Athos, Travis Wojcik, and alternates Rita Marie Cavicchio and Bruce Comack is also present, an alternate Amanda Green. With that, we can begin. Okay. First up is on the agenda is a tree request for 629 Lowell Street. And I believe we are looking to continue that to next month due to the fact that there is a tremendous amount of debris on the property next to a body of water that flows under Goodale Street and off to Crystal Lake. And hopefully that'll be removed this month. And we can then move forward with the tree removal. Do I have to have a vote for continuance? No?
I see a Russ W in the audience. I emailed him before the meeting. I don't know if that's the Russ W. So if that is the Russ W and he now wants to speak of this, if he could raise his hand. I just don't know if he changed his mind and decided he wanted to come. He is not raising his hand. So it's just if you move on, it's just he's not going to be heard until much later in the night. All right, I don't think that's him. You do not need a motion because it's not a public hearing.
Oh, this is a public hearing, but okay.
The item is not a public hearing. It's just a tree request.
Okay, next.
Stuart, through the chair, before you go, I got a call in my office today. It was sent to me that whoever the people are at 629 Lowell Street called to get pricing on brush removal, piles of brush removal. So that, they are trying to get rid of it. So.
Oh, I know they are. I don't know who put it there. It's been a matter of contention for a couple of months, but I want to get rid of it because it's considered fill by us, and I don't want the stuff falling back into the water. It was cleared because the waterway was blocked and the wetlands were now getting flooded.
Is this the pile of brush at the bottom of Goodale Street?
Yeah, that's it.
The city did that.
I think so, but they're denying it. So there was a black truck, huge dump truck that was there at one point, loaded to the gills. and they never came back. So
I could have sworn the city did that right before a big storm. Well,
probably was. I need to get it out of there in terms of the debris. And if you go further upstream, there's more of it. There's trees that gotta come out and all kinds of stuff. It's just a matter of Concom should maintain or should enforce maintaining waterways. That's
all
all.
right, whatever. I just, like I said,
So,
I didn't know what you were talking, now that I know, but I just wanted you to know that they are gonna try to get rid of it.
they are, definitely are. All right, moving on. Anybody else have any comments on this one? No? Moving on, request for an extension permit, DEP file 559797. The request is made by Doug White. Project is a dwelling replacement, cottage restoration, and other upgrades located at 15 Elginwood Road. I believe this was the old White House, isn't it? I mean, it's been there forever.
I believe Doug is in the audience. This was 2 cottages and Doug has beautifully restored them.
Okay.
I'm hoping that this is him. I'm going to promote him to a panelist. Hopefully it's not a Zoom bomber because I will be kicking them out.
That's all right. The power you have. It's Doug. He's got to unmute himself.
I'm not a bummer.
Yay. Hi, Doug.
Hey, I don't know why my camera's not working.
That's fine.
All
You're
right,
here.
all right, yes.
State your name and address for the record.
Douglas White, 15 Elginwood Road, Peabody, Mass.
Okay, good. So you want an extension for a year?
Yes, we've been building all along since been working with you guys. Appreciate your help and your patience. And then 2020 came. And I lost my job. My wife worked at home. So we weren't going to move forward with the project. We had a garage still to do. So things have settled down. Contractors are working. So last summer, we decided to go for a permit for the building inspector. And he said that the zoning had expired. So we have to go to ZBA on January 24th. And that would lead us into February with a 20-day wait for the neighbors to say something. So we're asking for an extension so we can get this thing done, hopefully this spring as soon as possible. It's actually more modest than I think you guys were looking at before. It's a single-story, single-slope building. And we're just trying to get it through zoning. So it's going to take time beyond February when the expiry happens. Also, by the way, thanks to the geothermal, they're working great in both buildings. It's really, really, really efficient. It's doing really good. Did that work?
I make a motion to extend it for 1 year if there's no other further discussion.
Seconded.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and do a roll call. So I have a motion to extend for 1 year made by Commissioner Vivaldi. I believe I heard that seconded by Travis. Did I hear that right? All right. And it actually, because of the pandemic, his permit was actually tolled. So once again, Mr. White is like a 5-star applicant. It actually, it doesn't expire until May 13th, 2022. So extending it 1 year, he would get until May 2023. So I'm going to go ahead and do a roll call. Chairman Lazares. You're muted.
He disappeared. Oh,
No,
Yes.
muted.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Rizzo,
Yes.
Secretary Vivaldi,
yes.
Commissioner Comack,
Yes,
Commissioner Athis.
I didn't hear that.
It was a motion for a 1 year extension on 15 Elginwood. Do you have bad internet?
Hi, I think you're going in and out, so it's probably my internet, but my vote is yes.
I'm just gonna finish this and then we can chat back to that. Commissioner Wojcik,
Yes.
Commissioner Green.
Yes.
All right, so it passes 7-0 with Commissioner Green voting in the absence of Commissioner Canton. And so he has a 1-year extension until 5/13/2023. So Arthur, do you not have good internet where you are right now?
Well, just like a minute ago, you were going in and out. I don't have good internet, but apparently it goes in and out, but I don't know. Did anyone else have that problem when you were speaking?
My internet went down and it came back, but
Okay.
I'm
So I
blaming,
wasn't the only one.
I'm blaming RCN.
Yeah, I mean, if it gets really bad, I'd like want to, because we do have some like intense topics that are coming up. Like I want to say like 3 are pretty serious, or 4 are new applications. And if you can't hear it all, if you want to vote, you can, but I mean, probably shouldn't. And then Rita Marie could vote if she can hear. But Doug, you're all set. Thank you.
Okay, can I just say thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. You know, we've been working on this project since 2013, so it's hopefully wrapping up right now. So thanks for your patience.
Next is request for determination of applicability. Say continued public hearing, request for determination submitted by Anthony Capichetti of Hayes Engineering for 58 Mill Street, LLC, care of Ed Greeley, the applicant owner. The work proposed is the construction of a parking area and stormwater infiltration system for rooftop runoff within 100 feet of isolated vegetated wetland under local jurisdiction. The property is known as 58 Pulaski Street, map 53, lot 87. Did we ever get, we're waiting for, we got test pit information. Has that ever been reviewed by Will? You know?
What did you just read?
I said, it sounds like we got test pit information.
Well, 58 Pulaski is asking for a continuance
Okay.
because they sent in the test pit information like the last week of December, and Will was already on vacation. I've been asking for it since November, so he didn't have any time to review it, and they did ask for a continuance. I sent you an email just to you, Stuart, explaining who asked for continuances tonight. Did you get that?
Yeah, of course.
All right, so 58 Pulaski is one of the ones that did ask for a continuance.
And they did. There's no vote. There's no motion for that, or we're.
Motion, continue.
Okay, second.
I'll second that.
All right, so the motion is made to continue 58 Pulaski Street by Vice Chairman Rizzo, seconded by Commissioner Athos. I'm going to go ahead and do a roll call. Chairman Lazaris,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Rizzo,
Yes.
Secretary Vivaldi,
Yes.
Commissioner Comack,
Yes,
Commissioner Athos,
Yes.
Commissioner Wojcik,
Yes.
Commissioner Green.
yes,
All right, it is continued until February 7-0.
Number 4, notices of intent. Public hearing on notice of intent submitted by Dominic Maringolo of Solitude Lake Management for the Department of Public Services in Peabody. Proposed work is an aquatic plant
Wait.
management.
What about the other, you jumped over,
Did I jump over something? I'm
you
sorry.
jumped from 1 to 4. You gotta go to item 2.
I'm sorry. Did I do that? I got 1. Oh, I'm sorry. Item 2. Huh? Item 2 is the proponent has requested or stated that they're retracting their application for an RDA and will come back with an NOI. Is that
Well, for
correct?
right now, they're asking for a continuance until February. It sounds like they are going to be requesting, I know they are going to need to withdraw it and request an NOI, but the email I received today asked for a continuance just to wait just in case there's some sliver of hope that they might be able to keep the RDA. I think you will be finding them next month returning to withdraw it though.
Okay.
But in the meantime, they would ask that 0 Newberry, I believe it's more like 25 Newberry though.
It says
there's a-
0.
Yeah, but there's a lot of 0 Newberry, so that's confusing.
Oh,
But yes, map 88 lot 7, they are asking for a continuance.
Okay. You have a motion to continue?
Move to continue.
Second,
Second. Arthur seconded it. You want to do a roll call?
I heard Arthur made it and someone else seconded it. No?
yeah, I
Yeah,
seconded it.
that was me who seconded the motion.
Okay. I'm gonna do Arthur made it, Travis seconded, roll call, Chairman Lazares,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Rizzo,
Yes,
Secretary Vivaldi,
Yes.
Commissioner Comack,
Yes,
Commissioner Athos,
Yes.
Commissioner Wojcik,
Yes.
and Commissioner Green.
Yes,
All right, 0 Newberry has been continued 7-0.
All right. Item 3, public hearing on a request for determination of applicability submitted by attorney John R. Kelty for 49 Tremont Street LLC. The proposed work was originally approved under DEP file 55-801, which has lapsed. Most work proposed in the Concom jurisdiction has been completed. The applicant needs a negative determination to continue construction of a commercial building previously approved. The property is known as 49 Tremont Street, map 76, lot 402 in Peabody.
Attorney Kelty?
Huh?
Or are you going to say Attorney Kelty?
Okay, Attorney Kelty, go ahead. I know you were there. I'm sorry.
Thank you. My name is John Kelty. I'm an attorney. I have offices at 40 Lowell Street here in Peabody, Massachusetts. And I am representing Michael Bonfiglio, who has purchased the lot at 49 Tremont. We brought the proposal for a commercial building, which footprint showed on our originally filed by Bob Danisco, AGA Foster LLC. We showed that plan and the building that is intended to be constructed as to the site plan review committee, construction review committee, and planning board. We are pleased to say that we were approved at construction review and planning board. Lucia had sent a memo at the time we were there explaining that the order of conditions was expired. And as such, I filed a request for determination of applicability, hoping that the commission would essentially say, provided that construction is in accordance with the previously issued plans and order of conditions. In my filing, I did file a recorded copy of the order of conditions. And it is we provided notice as provided by the statute. And we're here this evening to say that the only work left will be the construction of the physical building. And that is largely out of jurisdiction. There are plantings that are to be done as part of the original order of conditions. All of the utilities have been installed. When the building itself is completed, there will be a need to tie in the roof drains into the stormwater system that has been completed and installed. And Mr. Bonfiglio will install the plantings that were required in the original order of conditions in an area between the building that is being proposed to be constructed and Tremont Street itself. There's a small open area where the brook exits from under Tremont Street, and then travels somewhat open for a limited period of time, very limited, and then travels underground again. All utilities, pavement have all been completed in the area. And we are seeking a negative determination provided construction is as reflected on the earlier order of conditions and in accordance with the building approved by site plan review, which is the exact same size as the and shape as the building that was presented back when this entire project consisted of one lot in which we showed you 3 buildings. The only work left to be done on this particular site is the planting and tie-in of the roof drains.
Anybody else want to comment?
I don't know, I'm kind of confused. I have
I agree.
I have a photo of the site that it's empty. There's nothing on the site. What am I looking at? I don't understand.
There's nothing on the site that we're discussing right now, which is number 49. That's the smallest of the 3 lots. There is a building out there today at the rear of the site, which is intended to be a recreational facility specializing in basketball. And that building is under construction, virtually completed. And as I pointed out, the utilities necessary for that building and this building, which is not yet constructed, all the utilities are installed. So there is no structure on this building, Commissioner Rizzo. You're correct. If the picture you saw was of
Looks like-
this
yeah,
particular
Looks
lot.
like an empty
you're correct.
lot. Looks like an empty lot.
And that's correct. It is empty. The driveway's there, the utilities are in. But the building has not been constructed. That's what we're here to seek permission to build the building in accordance with the earlier issued notice of intent. And that's the positioning in the building that was approved through the site plan review process.
I have a note saying that there has not been, the required monthly reports for the orders of condition have not been filed. And I think the order of conditions expired.
It did. That's what
So you need to
brings me
file,
here.
you need to extend it. You want to make a motion to extend it.
No, too late to extend. Extensions must be sought before the expiration itself and 1 month before and then extended thereafter. So we're too late for that.
There's I guess Lucia got an 8x10 copy of a plan, which made it
She
very
did.
hard to read. And we'd like to see a full-size plan submitted so the scale is correct.
A full size, what do we, full size, what I did give you was a reduced copy of the plan that went through site plan review. And it provides contours, elevations. They mirror the plan that was originally approved by the Conservation Commission and was the subject of an order. And all construction, grading, utilities, et cetera, have been built and installed in accordance with that. And our building now, we're saying can be constructed without, provided we do not deviate from the original order. Our goal is to build in accordance with the original order and receive a negative determination this evening, which will allow the issuance of a building permit, and the conditioning of that negative determination can reference all construction to be in accordance with that approved by site plan review and by the previous order of conditions.
The plan I'm looking at has 3 buildings on it. Are you building 3 buildings?
No, we're building the one on the far right, that is lot the plan you're looking at, we are proposed building on lot 2A, 2,200 square feet.
So is this a subdivision? Is this,
It eventually did become subdivided, yes. There was lot 2A to 3A and I think 1A.
and these plans reflect that?
Yes, these plans that were filed with you folks are the plans that were previously, it's one sheet from the plan previously approved as part of an order of conditions, and the site plan review was conducted on lot 2A, but utilizing this plan.
I'm having trouble with this.
For the chair, the plan that you guys have does not show the subdivision of the parcels. I asked Jack if he could do something to submit maybe a plan of just the lot that he's asking for. I thought this was going to be confusing. I mean, I did a GIS for him that I have on the OneDrive, but I certainly didn't come up with engineering plans. So if you want to see the lot in question, I can pull up the GIS that I think I have it on there, but I mean,
Well, this,
It's-
I don't even have the order of conditions. I just have one page of, I have sheet 1 of 47.
And
Lucia, if you could pull that up, I think that would be helpful.
I think there were two sheets. Two sheets from the plan were filed, one that showed quite clearly the lot divisions in landscaping, and the second was grading, utilities, et cetera. And yes, that is the lot that Lucia has provided. That's correct. That is the lot, and there is no building on it. Since that picture, that aerial, the grading to the left or west, that has all been completed. And there is a building currently being or completed on the rear lot, which is to the lower left.
Building, that third building then is,
Third building shown on the plan is,
so there's 3 buildings. You want to build the one from lot 2A. You're saying the building on the lower right is under construction now?
well, now I've lost that. The building at the rear,
14,730 square feet.
yes, that's actually up. That building is up and receiving inspections as we speak.
I see. And the other one, the one closest to.
The one closest to the street has never been begun, and I believe that Ahmad, if he follows through with this project, that proposed 2-story building may have to have its own filing. He bought that lot over 2 years ago and has never begun construction. And the proposed building 14,730, which sits on lot 3A, that is built.
Through the chair,
Go ahead.
what is the scope of work for this RDA?
Scope of work would be, that would be contemplated for this would be the actual construction of the building and the installation of the plants, which required, do you see the area in front of the 2,200 square foot building? There's an area, yes, I think Lucia is pointing to it now, that those plantings that are up in, yes, adjacent to Fernando Cunha and adjacent to the open portion of the stream. That those plantings must be completed. There are plantings there today, some of which were never disrupted and never removed, but it requires a planting scheme that had been, there's a site planting schedule that was previously approved, and that would be the planting configuration that would take place.
If I may, I'd like to ask a question.
Go ahead, Mike.
If an NOI was originally submitted for this application, original construction process years ago, and now the applicant would like to submit an RDA, I didn't, if you said it earlier, Jack, I didn't follow. What was the reasoning for this change of applications? That if the work is the same, or is it not? I didn't quite, it was kind of confusing, I'm sorry to say, but.
Oh, it is confusing.
And a little bit, not working with it daily, it was a little bit confusing. So why does the applicant feel that an RDA is sufficient at this time?
My sense was when we were given notice, we were in the site plan review process. Nothing had changed with respect to the physical aspects of the plan, the grading, utilities, et cetera, were all intended to be the same. When we were provided with the notice very accurately that our order had expired, I thought that it was more expedient and cost effective, since we were building everything just as originally approved without change, including the odd shape of that building, that 2,200 square foot building. We were still intending to build it in that fashion and are intending to do so today. My feeling was that it would be a little more direct and faster to ask for an RDA based on building in accordance with the expired order.
So what is on the, so what is in the order of conditions from project?
What is in the original order?
Yeah.
Stormwater management had been scrutinized, and we changed and upgraded and upsized the stormwater management system during the process until we were finally approved by the Public Services Department, and we have installed downspouts at their direction. We've provided some, there's a small retaining wall, which is really on the property line between ourselves and Paul Ferragamo's building, which has been in existence for 100 years. And we've got a ret wall there that was approved by Public Services, which will prevent overflow to his property. And everything has
Is
been.
that on this? Is that on these plans? Is that on that wall and stuff? Is that stuff on these plans?
Yep. Because all the work having been undertaken has all been undertaken with those approved plans. And that's the set of plans that I referenced in that is referenced in the order of conditions. And I provided 2 sheets from that plan.
Okay. So for us to move forward on something like this, we'd have to revisit the order of conditions, and so we know what they are and what changes may have been made since the first building was started, or.
Well, there weren't changes.
Were not changes.
There were not, no.
So the order conditions are
would still be applicable to
they include
construction
all
already completed and to the construction that we're intending to begin. What I did say was that if Ahmad should decide to go forward with his building, which was, he purchased his lot some 2 years ago and never moved forward. If he were to try now, he would need either a new order of conditions or something similar to this, in the fashion that he may be able to make a claim that he's not within your jurisdiction at all. But I'm not here for that. I'm here for Lot 2A, and I am mindful of the fact that if Ahmad decides to build something, he's going to need a permit from you folks to do that.
So why does that make that lot any different than the one we're talking about now? What's the difference between the two?
What's the difference?
In terms of,
there's no, I've never seen a proposed location or any of the materials to be used for the construction of his building. And his building has not gone through site plan review.
okay, and the utilities aren't in there for that building and all that?
I think they're off the street, and they're off the street, and they are available to him. And his storm drainage, which is that which is behind the building, that's constructed because it's necessary for the entire project. And Bob Danisco, who is the project, it was his project to begin with. He has installed the utilities in accordance with the original order, because they will be necessary to access the rear building.
And Lot 2A has site plan review approval.
Yes.
So, okay. So is it appropriate to do an RDA if we already, I'm a little confused where I know the permit is expired.
Well, my thought was that if we filed an RDA, the board could say, provided construction was in accordance with the earlier notice and the approved plans, that the position could be taken that that the Wetlands Protection Act is not applicable to this site, provided work is undertaken in accordance, what continued work is necessary is undertaken in accordance with the prior order.
I'm lost, Jack.
That was the way I thought of it.
Okay, Jack, I'm a little lost. If there's if there was an order of conditions,
It's
I don't have it
expired.
I don't have it in front of me, but I need to know if they were completed, at all. And we need a report on that. I also think a site visit might be appropriate so they can understand where the wetlands are and the plantings and all that stuff.
Well, the plantings aren't in, Stuart. That's what needs to be done.
Okay, well, that's what I need to see. And I also want to get a larger set of plans so I can see them. The 8x10 didn't do it for me. And your plans, the plan you sent does not show erosion controls. Are they no longer necessary?
The place that erosion, we would be willing to install them, but the place where erosion controls would be most useful, how do I describe it? There's a level at which, when you're standing on the Lot 2A and you're looking in the direction of Tremont Street, there's a significant drop in elevation. And then there is what the remains of an old foundation wall that blocks any kind of materials from getting into the brook at that point. So it seems as though the wall, actually the old foundation wall, which is exposed to about 2 or 3 feet high, that serves the purpose of the same purpose that erosion control would. However, if the board would like, you know, a row of hay bales or silt socks, fences, whatever, we're happy to do that, but they are totally unnecessary and just based on the existing condition out there.
I think a site visit is necessary to see what you're talking about. 'Cause it's
Is all
been-
through the chair, Jack, is all the proposed drainage in?
Yes. Tanks, stormwater management facilities, treatment facilities, and detention facilities are all installed.
I don't have an issue with the way Jack is approaching this. What I have an issue with is that the plan that he submitted, first of all, it was 8 by 10. And second of all, it's on the large subdivision. So I feel like since this has been subdivided, why don't we have a plan showing just this proposed building? I mean, this is just extremely confusing. No one here knew what we were looking at. So is the building that's 14,000 square feet, that's developed, but then the other building that the other 2-story building, it sounds like that has not been developed. So there's one building on here, but all the stormwater's done. But I'm pretty sure I was supposed to be contacted through all of this, and I haven't heard from anyone since May of 2020. So had I been involved, I probably would have helped you guys out and made sure that your permit didn't expire. And then the thing that's really bothering me, and I would 100% not recommend you guys doing, I definitely would not recommend you guys tying the plantings under a determination of applicability, because I can tell you they're not going to get done. They should stay on that order of conditions, and that order of conditions should not get released until at least that one building is complete, all the stormwater is complete, and those plantings are done. We already saw what happened at another project where you guys signed off on a partial without the plantings, and now we're waiting like a whole year for him to plant. And I'm chasing the gentleman around. So I don't think tying plantings, if you actually want to see the plantings get done, I do not recommend tying it to a determination. There's no teeth to a determination. It doesn't get recorded, and it's just their word.
And I think to add to that, Lucia, I think there's a good evidence that this applicant is not very attentive to their needs that they need to follow for these conservation issues.
So is the message I'm hearing that I should be submitting a NOI so that we can put teeth into the planting?
What I'm still kind of confused is if the NOI OOC expired, then why wouldn't an applicant file a new NOI for the work? Why is an RDA? Why does the applicant think an RDA is sufficient? I still don't understand that kind of idea.
I just thought it was quicker, more expedient, and would get us into a meeting.
And it's not, it's the same property, the same work.
Yes.
Through the chair, that just segs onto, so that's another thing. So at the next meeting, Jack has already submitted a certificate of compliance for the entire subdivision, which he just said that only one building is built and these two. And then so that if you guys close that out next month, I think it's good we're talking about this right now. I already can tell you, I do not think that you should be closing that order of conditions out, even though it's lapsed. Once you close it out, you are giving them full okay. You don't have to do anything else on this. And I don't think that is a good idea, especially since these plantings haven't been done. I support this project. I've always supported this project. I'm not sure what happened and where Bob fell off, being in contact with me. But again, and I do support an RDA, I think, for this front lot, but I think we need a plan showing just his lot. I think this is so confusing.
Well, I'm looking at, the plan that I'm looking at that shows the 3 buildings. Jack, you're saying that building we're talking about is out of our jurisdiction, but I'm looking at a plan
No, I
that shows the whole building in the buffer zone.
No, I didn't say this building was out of your jurisdiction. I didn't think that I said that, but
Yeah, you did. I think you did.
okay. I
So the
did
whole-
make a reference to the
So the whole
building.
building, it couldn't, there's a line on there that says 100-foot buffer zone.
Right, it shows right on the plan we filed, yes.
So
And all the plantings are
well, depending on
jurisdiction.
which side, am I looking on the wrong side of the buffer zone?
No, you're not. You're looking at the right thing, Mike.
Okay,
Perhaps a new notice of intent.
so I don't think we should
I'll
do this.
clarify
I don't think we should
everything.
do it. I understand that would make it easier, but I don't know if we should be doing it with an IDA when it's all buffer zone. Oh, man.
Arthur was suggesting a new NOI. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, I was suggesting that. I think Jack might have suggested that.
I asked the question, I said, are we pointing in the direction of a NOI for this?
Yeah, it might be better.
I would certainly say so. I don't feel comfortable issuing a negative determination when the entire building is within the buffer zone.
I would feel, and again, this is up to you guys. I have no problem with you guys having them file a new NOI it would be for the entire subdivision. But, and then that would be good for the new owner as well. I think where I was going with this is that he's trying, next month, he's coming to get a certificate of compliance for that lapsed order of conditions. And I don't think that you guys should give it to him.
Well,
And that's fine. That's for next month, Lucia. And you're right. And Bob did say to you in correspondence this afternoon that in all likelihood, a complete certificate of compliance is inappropriate because the building in the front has not been begun. The building that we're discussing now is not completed nor begun. But what Bob wanted the certificate of compliance filed for was in order to obtain an occupancy permit. So that would perhaps be supportive of a partial certificate with respect to only allowing the issuance of occupancy when appropriate in the eyes of the building commissioner.
But is it all paved and the driveway's in and all the work is done?
Yep.
I wish we had some pictures. I wish we had
yeah. That's why I'm suggesting a site visit before next month. And if the commission feels a new NOI is appropriate to take care of the subdivision in total, then I need a motion for that.
Make a
And-
motion that the applicant submit a new notice of intent.
You get a second?
Seconded.
Travis? Travis,
Yes.
you did, okay.
All right,
Want to do a roll call?
I believe it would actually be a positive determination asking that the applicant file a notice of intent.
And a new NOI. I know it's intent yet. Okay. So the motion is for a positive determination.
Asking for an applicant to file a notice of intent. That was made by, I don't want to put words in your mouth. That was made by Arthur, seconded by
That was
Travis.
Exactly what I was going to say.
Yes, okay.
And I'm gonna go ahead and do a roll call, and if we don't have 4 people voting, then we would go to further discussion. There was someone in the audience waving their hand though, but I think they put their hand down. Gonna go ahead and do a roll call. Chairman Lazares,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Rizzo,
Yes.
Secretary Vivaldi,
Yes.
Commissioner Comac,
Yes,
Commissioner Athos,
Yes,
Commissioner Wojcik,
Travis.
he made the motion, so I'm gonna go on to Commissioner Green.
Yes.
All right, so the motion for a positive determination stating that the applicant must file a new NOI passed 7-0.
And just procedurally, Lucia, the closeout date for NOI for next meeting would be Friday, correct?
The deadline should be on the website.
Yeah, I think it's Friday.
I think it's tomorrow.
Oh, boy.
You're right.
I'll
I think
give you
you are
till Friday at 10 o'clock a.m.
So now, because this is connected to the other 3 lots, this public hearing is not, we're not closing this hearing. This hearing stays open.
No,
No,
why?
you would only be closing this negative determination for that front lot.
Okay,
And that other order of condition 55-801, that is still it's an open order that has lapsed that they are still continuing to do work on, which is why I'm assuming you guys had them
So do
file
we-
a new NOI
so
for a new order.
do we need to be voting for an extension of the order for the building that's being built right now?
No, it's too late, Michael.
Yeah. All right.
You have to request an extension within 30 days of the expiration. And
Yeah.
again, had I have been involved and was getting reports, I would have
Yeah.
saw that, but I didn't have the file in front of me. And
Okay.
I didn't notice until they came to construction review.
Right.
All right. Okay.
So are you guys asking for a new NOI on the entire subdivision because they're still doing work on the entire property? Or are you asking for an NOI on just this front lot? Because if that's the case, I don't necessarily agree with that. I would agree with the motion for a new NOI on the entire lot. But I would be on Jack's side saying that a negative determination for this lot is okay, as long as you guys don't close out that other order that has the plantings on it. The plantings are one of the most important things to me right now. And the fact that they did all their stormwater already, I mean, that makes me feel good, but I haven't been on the site since before the pandemic. I have absolutely no idea what it looks like right now. I haven't been invited. I didn't go to a single one of those when they were doing the underground storage. I wasn't invited to anything.
So how do you say that we have a positive determination now on the 2,200 square foot lot, and you don't have to file a notice of intent if it's positive?
But you just made that, I'm really confused at what you guys did. What I thought you guys just voted on was a positive determination stating that he needs to do an NOI for either just this bit, or the smart thing would be to do the entire subdivision so that they can continue building the building that's still under construction, the building that hasn't started construction, and now this new building that also needs to get constructed. There's still 2 buildings that need to get constructed. And I'm sure there's a lot of other things that need to go on that site, including those plantings that are really important. That's the last bit of Lawrence Brook that is daylighted in all of Peabody. The rest of it's all underground.
And this new NOI, if we're to do that, this new NOI would replace the 801.
That was what I was hoping.
Yeah,
I don't know, Jack, is that what you were thinking, or were you thinking just an NOI on this front lot?
I'm flexible. I'm flexible. I mean, it makes some sense that there be a valid order for that front lot and for Bob to complete the rear lot.
Yeah, I would go along with that. That makes more sense, Jack.
Through the chair, Jack, is it as long as I think it is? I mean, I can remember walking around that lot. It's gotta be 8 years ago?
Uh, yeah, because we had 3 years. In 2015, the order issued in 2015. So it's at least 6 years ago. And we began discussing it. I think it took almost a year to get it through the
Right.
commission.
Yeah, all
So
right.
it's
I knew it was a
probably
long time ago, I know
2014.
that.
We had our original 3 years. We then did get one continuance, I believe, Lucia, and then it expired. Through nobody's fault but our own.
All right,
Yeah, I think a new notice would be more appropriate, would work better. You already have all your infrastructure in place.
Yep.
so,
But I would think that would go smoother.
so the vote we took then is for an entire a new set of plan and notice of intent to cover the entire subdivision, correct? All 3 lots.
That's
No,
what I'm hearing, yes.
I think all 3 lots make more sense.
Yeah, we had just made a motion to issue a positive determination for the building in question, but I think it should be,
I thought it was for all of them.
was it for all of them? All right.
Well, the reason I say it is because it makes more sense if there's buildings that haven't been started.
No, I know
Yeah.
it makes sense. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
do we need to restate it again? Because I don't know if we said that.
I don't know.
But it'd be for the entire subdivision.
Yeah, I would like it to
A
be.
new NOI for the entire subdivision,
And
which
Jack
would
has-
include the building that's been built and is finishing the 2,200 square foot lot that is soon to be started, and the other building that could be worked into the new notice, and basically just reiterating what was there before.
That's what I thought we voted on.
I think the motion, the way you guys made it, that was the way I understood it, because once again, the plans that were submitted are of the entire subdivision.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
Therefore,
and if we all, now that it's been clarified and Jack understands, I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't just on that front lot, and then he would be back next month trying to get a partial certificate on the other order of conditions. And that is coming next month, but I do kind of want to talk about it now, Jack. I mean, if you're going to be filing a new notice of intent, why would the commission be voting on a certificate of compliance next month for a project that's not complete? I mean, I understand you need that certificate of occupancy. That's something that perhaps the commission could give a verbal on tonight for that other building, but maybe after a site visit, so you guys can actually see what the property looks like. I just think that him asking for a certificate of compliance next month.
It would have to be a partial. It would have to be a partial certificate.
Correct.
Yeah, but even for a partial, I mean, unless he's coming with that new NOI with the new plantings on it, and then, I mean, I guess that's okay. I just think once you give out partials, we all know what happens.
well, I'm looking for the entire subdivision, number one, is a new NOI and a site visit.
Weren't we supposed to have a site visit? We got blown off. Didn't that happen like?
That's a different property,
That was a different site. That was different.
Oh,
different property.
But we can talk about the certificate of compliance next month. It sounds like Jack's gonna leave it on there anyway, and we can discuss further next month. I think right now I have the motion down, and I think Jack understands, and me and Jack can talk offline. There's a lot of people in the hearing, and we got a lot of long things to talk about, so I don't want to spend too much time on this.
Agreed.
Right, Jack, you don't have any questions on this?
No, I'm fine.
All right, we
Okay.
can deal with those certs next. But do you guys want to try to set up a site visit, or are we invited to go at our leisure maybe? Or is this like an active construction site that you don't want people on? Could we set up a time to meet without you, or do you want someone there with you?
I mean, if members are wanting to go by on their own, they're welcome to do so. It is a site that there is activity on, and there is a gate that is not always open. So it's probably a little more manageable if we were to set a time and place.
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's do that.
What's your pleasure?
Personally, I can only do after 4 Monday through Thursday or after 2:30 on Friday. So that probably leaves me out.
Well, I think after 4, it's gonna be dark, isn't it?
Yeah,
So probably the Friday then would be, a Friday would be probably best.
So a Friday before 4 or at 4?
After
Between 2:30 and
Yeah.
dark it'd be
Okay.
on a Friday, so that'd be either this Friday or whatever Friday you want.
Hmm.
Maybe the sooner the better, because I think, is it not gonna snow Friday, is it?
I don't think so.
maybe next Monday or something, I think I saw on the Doppler.
Oh, and snow. Well, we can do it the 14th. Is that what we're saying?
But
Oh, I
we're
think
gonna
if
get
we
snow
do
on
it on
and
the
off.
14th, you're gonna be able to see more. I mean, you probably know 2 weeks from now, there could be
Right.
the snow on the ground.
So 114 at 2 o'clock or 2:30.
2:30?
Okay with everybody?
Yep.
I can't make it, but
Jack, can you make it?
Yes.
Okay.
So
Yes.
1/7/22 at 2:30.
114.
114.
114.
Today's the 12th.
114,
Oh,
22.
sorry.
In 2 days.
All right, I probably won't be there because I get out early at Friday and I don't really plan on working overtime unless you guys, I could probably go in late and meet you guys if Kurt will allow me. If you guys want me there. So 114/22 at 2:30, where are we meeting? If you open the gate, can they drive in? It's a little
Yes.
dangerous to park on Tremont.
Yes. And the
Okay,
gate is on Tremont, and
okay.
we'll arrange to have the gate open.
Yep,
Okay.
and who can I expect to be there? Because if it's more than 3 of you, I do not have enough time to post it as a meeting.
Oh,
I'll be there.
I'll be there.
I'll be there.
Not be there.
Who?
Yeah, I'm not available.
Okay, so there's
I have Amanda, Mike Rizzo, Stewart. And who else?
Travis said, no? Oh,
no.
Yeah, just three is good. That way, Mike,
Yeah,
Rizzo,
that's-
Stu, and Amanda, that way it's not need a quorum. There's no quorum.
okay.
Before we go any further, I have to step away from the meeting tonight. Sorry, guys, gals.
Okay.
Good seeing you.
Noted. Thank you.
8:08.
Hi, Arthur.
Aye.
That moves Rita up and voting.
If she is still with us.
So Lucia,
She's
that got set at 2:30 or 3? 3.
2:30. 2:30.
And it'll be Amanda, Mike Rizzo, and Stewart, so I do not need to post this.
Okay, cool.
Well, I just want to make sure.
That's
Because there's
good.
been so many complaints, Laney. I want to make sure that I am doing everything by the book. And do you guys want me to to see if I can work an odd schedule, or are you guys fine without me on the site?
That's,
Up to you.
that's up
That's
to
up to
you,
you.
yeah.
I
All
mean,
right, and-
personally, I'd rather you be there, but that's up to you.
Yeah, if you have to go through great lengths to be there and mess up your schedule, then
All right, I can talk to Kurt tomorrow. I mean, I've already been on the site. I just think that it's really important that you guys see what you're voting on. I mean, of course, I would like to be there, but 2:30 on Fridays isn't like the greatest time for me. But let me see what Kurt says.
Okay.
I'm sure I can figure something out, hopefully. Maybe I can just stick around for like a half hour and take off at 3.
Okay. All right, are we done with this one?
Yes.
This is well, it's continued, right?
Let's
This is-
continue.
No, you voted.
Okay, you voted, all right.
We voted, do you need to put a new NOI
Oh.
together? And I think Lucia said it's due Friday, it's before 10 or by 10.
Yep. 10 o'clock.
Yeah, but it sounds like I'm not gonna be that's why maybe I should keep my I should work 8:30 to 12:30 because I'm on a deadline right now for the February meeting.
That's
So
fine. We'll be
maybe
all
I
right.
just
That's
go
fine.
by
That's fine.
myself
That's fine.
another time.
Okay. So the three of us will show up at 2:30. Okay. Moving on.
Yeah,
Number 4, notices of intent. Did I get that right?
yes.
Okay. Public hearing on a notice of intent submitted by Dominic Marangelo from Solitude Lake Management for the Department of Public Services in Peabody. Proposed work is an aquatic plant management program for Crystal Lake, Elginwood Pond, Mill Pond, Sid's Pond, Bart's Pond, Devil's Dishful, Brown's Pond, Upper Spring and Lower Spring Ponds, Fountain Pond, Winona Pond, and Lake in Sonntag Lake to control nuisance and invasive vegetation with DEP registered mechanical techniques. This NOI is universal for all ponds, and it is covering hydro raking and mechanical harvesting. Okay, so that anytime you need to get any of the ponds done in the future, we do not have to have another NOI. Correct?
Yes,
Go ahead, Dominic.
thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, my name is Dominic Maringolo from Solitude Lake Management. Good evening, and thank you for your time. So we're here tonight with a notice of intent to add basically mechanical techniques, hydro raking and harvesting to the management programs at the ponds in town, in the city. We currently have an order of conditions for the ongoing management program using aquatic
Recording in
herbicides
progress.
at the ponds. And what we're doing here again is to add hydro raking and harvesting. Additionally, we've been doing algae management at the reservoirs, and this NOI has been expanded to include these mechanical techniques on the drinking water bodies, as well as Brown's ponds as well. So the real difference here with the mechanical techniques is, that the treatments have worked pretty well to sort of create more of a balanced amount of vegetation and open water in the ponds. But the ongoing concern here is that, the biomass of these plants, the plants, the dead material, the organic debris, the root systems are still in the ponds. These techniques, harvesting and mechanical hydro raking especially, would be really focused on removing that dead plant material, the root systems, the organic debris on the bottom. And this really goes a long way to maintaining water depths in the water bodies, reducing biological oxygen demand, really slowing the eutrophication process in these ponds. So it is very worthwhile measure to implement on these ponds and complement to the ongoing programs with the herbicides and the monitoring. So that this project is being filed as also as an ecological restoration project because it does. The idea is to enhance and protect the wetland resource area by slowing the eutrophication process, creating a more balanced amount of plant material and open water habitat. Specifically for the drinking water bodies, you can also look at this as a limited project as well for maintaining water dependent uses, maintaining the use of the drinking water reservoirs for potable water, invasive species and overgrowth, loss of volume, etc., is very, very much maintaining that is important in terms of the drinking water reservoirs. So again, as it was mentioned earlier, the city water bodies are Crystal Pond, Elginwood Mill Pond, Sydney's Bartholomew's Pond, and Devil's Dish Full. Brown's Pond is included as well. It's actually not a direct drinking water body, but it is right upstream from Spring Pond. So there's Spring Pond, Lower and Upper, Fountain Ponds. Then we have Suntog and Winona as well, where these techniques can be implemented. So let me just talk a little bit about hydro raking. If I could share, is it okay if I share my screen, Mr. Chair? I just want to show you some pictures of I just want to show you some pictures of the hydro rake. So actually, this is just off of our website, and you're welcome to go on there, solitudelake-management.com. If you need to look a little more information, there's some pictures in the NOI as well. But essentially, this is the machine here. It's basically a floating backhoe, paddle wheel driven, with biologically degradable hydraulic oil that's used. There's a York rake on the front, on the end of the arm, and it's used to basically scrape through the bottom of the water body, removing material like leaves, root systems, old partially decayed plants. Very effective on, and primarily will be used on emergent vegetation like cattails, invasive Phragmites, as well as water lilies. This is not considered dredging. It does not remove any material that has kind of been consolidated into more of a mucky material. The York rake, I'll see if I find a different picture. So you can see right here, this is a York rake, so it's not a bucket. It will only collect material that has some structure to it. Not a fine grain muck material, only something that's has root systems or still has some structure to the plant. And basically the machine goes into the work area, removes the vegetation, brings it over to shore, drops it off, either that or we have either a floating pontoon barge or even a mechanical harvester used as a transport barge. The hydro rake will sometimes load that machine or that barge and then move that barge over to shore, so doesn't have to go back and forth to shore each time. But it's a very effective way of removing that built up organic material and helping to restore some water depth, removing all of that material that otherwise would be slowly decomposing and creating an oxygen demand. For the hydro raking, for the harvesting, this would more likely to use hydro raking on the recreational water bodies. Harvesting could be used to remove plants in the drinking water reservoirs where herbicides are not allowed, or most herbicides are not allowed. Harvesting could be used in those water bodies to remove submersed plants that typically aren't the best thing to remove with the hydro rake. They're a little more, less biomass, more kind of more dainty, I guess is the right word. Don't have a really significant root system. The harvesting can be used to remove those plants. It's definitely a very good alternate to using herbicides and for the drinking water reservoirs. And as I mentioned, the mechanical harvesters are sometimes used as a transport barge, so they're not actually doing the cutting themselves, but they have storage on the back of the machine that the hydro rake, as you can see here in this picture, the hydro rake can load up that back of the machine like a barge, and that can be used to transport material back and forth to the shoreline. So, right now, I mean, there is work being planned for Elginwood and Mill Ponds. But this NOI is very generic in nature for all water bodies. So as stated in the NOI, as work develops and gets planned for any of these individual water bodies, we would prepare and submit a more detailed work plan to the commission for their review and approval under this order of conditions, under this universal order of conditions that would show you, what pond we're going to do the work on, what area specifically of the pond we'd be working on, where the machines would be launched, where the offloading will occur, how the offloading will occur. So as you can see in this picture, the machine and either the harvester or the hydrate can literally offload right into a small bobcat machine, which can then be moved to either a dumpster or a dump truck, preventing the material from ever having to really hit the ground on smaller offloading areas or wherever access is limited. We may have to deposit the material on the ground in kind of a hay bale corral, and then a small backhoe or bobcat would be also probably allow that to dewater for a short amount of time, depending on how much area we have in that spot. Then it would be picked up again, put into either dumpsters or a dump truck, and then moved to an off-site upland disposal area. So again, universal NOI, we would prepare all those details for you in a separate document, concise document for each individual project that would occur under this NOI. So I mean, that's essentially it in a nutshell. I'd be happy to either go through more details, or if the commission has any specific questions about any parts of the NOI, or if you look questions, or if you want me to dig in a little bit deeper to some of the topics, I'd be happy to do that.
I have a question, Dominic.
Sure.
What is, in your experience, what is the likeliness that this the system, this harvesting, not the harvesting, but the backhoe picks up turtles and other, kind of small animals, fish?
Yeah. So the fish. So going back to the hydro raking machine. So first of all, our operators are, as part of their training, they're always looking at the material they're pulling up. Certainly, if they see anything large enough to be visually observed, like a large fish, a turtle, snapping turtle, anything like that, they're trained to stop the machine on shore and make sure that critter gets off. There's definitely macro invertebrates, insects and stuff in the material that
you can't avoid that, right?
Can't avoid that. And some of the material, especially if it's left on the shoreline to dry for a short amount of time, certainly any mobile creature will be able to climb off the pile and go back into the water. So I think in all that it's not a very significant effect. Again, there may be some macroinvertebrates, insects and whatnot that may get removed, but those types of organisms typically, restore themselves populations very quickly. And again, we're only, even Elgin Wood Pond, which is relatively small compared to some of the water bodies we're talking about. We're only raking kind of one section at a time. A lot of the critters would stay away from the machine and the activity in the water. Certainly the fish and whatnot would stay away from that area.
Yeah, they know enough to move away, right?
Okay.
I have one comment for the commission. Cleaning out the debris in the bottom, it also increases the capacity of the lakes and ponds, which ultimately works towards reducing flooding in Peabody. So there's a multi-stage thing going on. This is something that I envisioned as a pond a year to do this and just keep going. Once you clean it out, canoeing, boating, fishing, all those things are then allowed, you can enjoy them without bottoming out. So there's a lot of benefits to this. Anybody else?
No, I'm good.
The NOI has already been signed by the mayor, so this is.
I believe we do have a file number. I checked earlier.
Okay.
Still sharing my screen, I guess. You can see it right here. There's a file number and didn't appear to be any comments. I don't recall ever actually getting the file number letter from the DEP, but I did search again right before the meeting, saw the file number, didn't see any technical comments. So.
Is the just kind of going on Stuart's statements a few minutes ago, is the goal to achieve and clean all the ponds mentioned in this NOI, or to do half or do a quarter for 2022?
That's, well, in 2022 and 2023, we'll be lucky to get one pond a year. However,
does it take that long to do one pond?
no, it costs that much money.
All the cost, yeah.
Yeah. So, and the way we're paying for this is we're applying for funds from the Community Preservation Commission to help us defer the cost. It's under the restoration of open space.
Correct.
So,
Okay.
and it's
Again, you'll have an opportunity. I'm sorry, go ahead. Sorry,
no, I
didn't
say
mean to
it
interrupt.
is affordable, but I don't know, we wouldn't want to do it all at once anyway. That would be an extreme cost. So, and I'm happy with the pond a year. We did Crystal Lake. We're going to go into Eldrinwood Pond next and continue for the purpose of we did clean up a lot of vegetation in Devil's Dishful. Summer before last, people were able to canoe and boat and fish. So that may not need hydro raking right away. But those are things we can review as the year goes on.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mike.
I just wonder if you want to entertain a motion to close the public hearing. Is anybody on this, or anybody wants to speak on this matter?
I
Lucy
have
does.
a couple things to say, and you do want to open it to the public, of course, but so Dominic mentioned, and this is an extremely important thing what Dominic mentioned about in it, it says the proposed work, because this is a universal NOI. Now, depending on who you talk to at DEP, it varies who you talk to. Some people are thrilled that we're trying to get away from chemical applications and going this route. And then you can talk to some other people and they're just like, well, a universal NOI, that's going to be tricky. And the tricky part is what Dominic just said. He's saying that the information will be provided in site-specific work plans as projects are developed on individual water bodies. So right now, we have money only for Elginwood Pond. So do we have those plans right now for Elginwood to start in 2022?
We don't have a package put together yet. We're still working out some of the final details with disposal and whatnot, but I do foresee us being able to prepare that relatively soon and provide that to the commission.
Okay,
Certainly before work begins.
Yeah, I'm obviously 100% supportive of this project. I've been working like over a year on it with Stuart. So I would say that if you guys are going to make the motion, we definitely need to talk about, before you close the hearing, we need to talk about what we're doing with the material. We've been trying to figure that out for like a year now, and I still don't know. From what I understand, the mayor does not want this on DPS's, it's too much work on their workload. They don't have enough bandwidth to remove it. It's going to end up sitting on the shore for weeks, months, and then DEP will find out and we'll get in trouble. So that's one thing we definitely need to talk about tonight. And then we also are going to need that Elginwood specific information before that starts. And then one of the very important things tonight is to reiterate in the conditions, because I know at least one DEP reviewer doesn't think this is possible. I think this is possible as long as we do what Dominic said. And that would be if you guys add a condition that each pond, whatever I just read, which I'm probably not going to be able to find it now, that as we go on each one, that we get a detail of what's happening. And maybe, they might have to come back to the commission. Unfortunately, I guess we're going to get charged every time they come to a meeting, though. That's the problem. But so there should be some sort of a condition saying that right now this is just for Elginwood Pond. And we sort of need those plans before I draft this order of conditions, though.
Well, see, I guess that's kind of contrary to what I was thinking, because I thought we wanted to keep this NOI in this order completely universal and then we would have this closed out order issued, put whatever conditions that need to go in it, but then we would come back to you very soon with the first work plan and the one for Elginwood Pond, and then at that time we can discuss the more of the details, like where exactly we're going to be putting the machines in, where the disposal will occur, what the plan is for contractor, final disposal area.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that what I just said, that we need to put a condition in that, now I can't find it, that each water body, we need more detail as each one is. But we've been working with you guys for a year on Elginwood, and I guess we're at this point, we're not going to be doing work in Elginwood if we don't have those plans until 2023, because Brendan's already told us that you don't have us on the schedule for 2022. So now if we're waiting longer for Elginwood plans, but yes, I agree with everything you're saying. This is a universal NOI, but you guys have to put that condition that each pond is going to be treated separately.
Yeah, I think
with a narrative.
Each pond would have a narrative scope of work that could be special to that site, like access to the water, or could be a number of things, because every water body is different. So there'd be a narrative that has a scope that goes with that site, but the conditions can be generic.
Yeah, so maybe that would be the condition then, that, although this is a universal NOI, for each water body, Solitude will need to come with a separate plan, a separate narrative on each water body going forward. And the first would be Elginwood, and that would be at a date to be determined, hopefully really soon. Correct?
Yes. No, I mean, I can work with Brendan to get something to get together pretty quickly. I assume I could even get you something to be on the agenda, one of your February agendas. Probably not the first one, because I think that deadline's already passed, but we can, and I wouldn't, given that we just did the NOI, this first time around, I wouldn't need to charge you for attending another meeting to get that one reviewed. So.
Okay.
Did you want to get a motion to open the public hearing?
Yes, make a motion.
Second?
You don't need a
Hmm.
motion. It's just at
Yeah,
this
just-
time, if anyone's in the audience that would
Right.
like to speak for or against this, please raise your hand. And I got a bunch of calls, but honestly, most people, when they heard that it wasn't about their pond yet, and it was mostly Elgin wood and that it was invasive species removal for recreational value, everyone was super thrilled. And they were like, oh, when are you coming in our pond? That's pretty much what everyone said. So I don't think anyone is here tonight. I don't see anyone raising their hand. So if you want to close the public hearing and then make that motion, I just think it's really important that you put in whatever that condition is, that each water body has to have another meeting. Maybe it won't be a public hearing. Well, I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think that the neighbors should be notified just for that specific pond via regular mail?
I
Or
personally think that the universal NOI, we should have a statement in there saying that the specific work on each pond should be detailed as we do them. Second, I believe that these ponds, if you clean up a pond and get rid of all the weeds and all of the debris that's in them, you increase the property value of the city. It's a given. People will start to say, what a nice, thing. But each pond or a lake should have its own plan. I agree with Lisa. And those things should be brought to us, whether we make it, and I think a public hearing would be good from the standpoint that we need to involve the abutters and the citizens of the city. It's not a bad thing.
someone did just raise their hand.
Good.
Named Stacy. There's not a last name, so I'm not going to promote them to a panelist just because I'm a little jaded on that last time we got Zoom bombed. I don't think, because we notified people for this, I don't think going forward we necessarily need to notify abutters. It is a huge cost and it is a huge task. So that would be up to you guys if the group thinks that it has to be everyone agreeing, though, and making that motion saying that abutters need to be notified again, because again, that is a huge task and it is a lot of money and a lot of legwork for.
Yeah, I don't think we need to notify the abutters for each pond.
Because they were notified this time. I got probably about 10 calls and everyone was completely thrilled. I mean, this is a lot different than when we did the chemicals and people had wells. That's a whole different story. You're putting chemicals into the water right next to someone's well. This is where exactly what Stu said. We are increasing their property value. We are ecologically restoring that. So I think that if we just go that route of the plans and the narrative for each water body.
I think that the projects as they occur in each pond, it's great press. The newspapers will pick it up. The citizens will be invited to witness it. It's not like it's going to be done in the middle of the night. People will be involved in it anyway.
Yeah, but we're not going to notify all the butters individually.
I would like to see, personally, I'd like to see the abutters listed as email addresses so it doesn't cost a fortune. And the emails go out and they're still documented.
There's no way for me to get people's email addresses. I mean, we don't have records of people. The only way I have an email address is if someone emails me.
I understand, but I'm thinking that if there's a public hearing for Elginwood Pond, you've already notified the abutters. The money in that one is spent. I think that in the future, we just put out there, if you've got, one to
What about
attend.
the phone call? We always get phone calls from City Hall saying, just as a
Reverse 911, right?
yeah, just informational purposes for those people who live on
That's a
Brown's
good
Pond
idea.
that, over
Yeah,
the
it could
next
be a-
month,
could
you're
be
gonna see
robocall.
work relative to removing aquatic
That's,
basic
I
material.
agree with Mike's point, because I think a lot of residents will be calling the town hall, city hall to say, oh, something's going on and if they get some sort of advance notice, a little 5 days before, they will be that much less concerned.
Yeah,
So are you saying that it should be a robocall before the work starts or before the
Yeah.
public hearing?
Before the work starts.
Agreed, because at this point, everyone was notified.
Yeah.
These are all the people. This
Yeah.
is a lot of people. They were all
Yeah.
notified. I feel like it's just overkill to keep
It is.
notifying people,
It is.
and it's a lot of money. But there is a person named Stacy. I'm gonna go ahead and unmute them. So Stacy, I am gonna allow you to speak.
Hi, I'm not a bomber. I actually live on Browns Pond.
Stacy, can you state your name and address for the record, please?
Sure, Stacy Palumbo Vale, 265 Lynn Street, Peabody.
Hi, and welcome.
Hi, I've been in plenty of contacts and messages with Stu. And I've been in the backyard meetings at my sister's house on Lynn Street about Browns Pond. Love the fact that it's being looked at, cleaned up, all that stuff. I just wanted to add, you guys think that nobody's on here because we didn't raise our hands, but we are on here and we are listening. We did get the notice. That's why I'm on this meeting, to hear about what's concerning my pond, my backyard. So I still would like notification of what you guys are doing. Yes, I probably don't need notification of all of the ponds, but maybe geared more to specific, the ponds I live on. I understand that's probably difficult understanding who, what, where, and who lives on what pond. But like you said about the phone call from City Hall, like I'll continue to listen if it has something to do with me or my kid's school, or I hang up. So maybe doing like a whole call out to everyone saying, you know, people that live on Browns Pond, this message is for you, or so fun. I understand mailing, emails, you don't have all of our email addresses and whatnot, but you did get our attentions. We are here. I did get the notification about tonight's meeting, so I would still like to be involved and listen and be a part of whatever decisions you guys are making.
Thank you.
No problem.
Anybody else need to speak or want to speak? I see Jim Tully.
Yep, I'm gonna go ahead and mute you, Stacy. And Jim should be able to unmute himself.
There I am. Thank you. Just wanted to second that we've been here listening, in on the meeting, and we live on Devil's Dishful Pond, and really like the work Solitude did the past couple of years with the spraying. It's really knocked down a lot of the high vegetation, but to Dominic's point, there is no depth at the back of Devil's Dishful Pond. The Lake Street side has some depth to it, but I would say the back half of it has very little. The vegetation is the composting is very high in the water, so we're all for the harvesting. And thank you for the work you're doing.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
I don't see anybody, but Jim, could I just get your address, please, for the record?
I'm sorry.
Oh, yes, it's 136 Winona Street in Peabody, obviously.
All right, so I don't see any more hands. I saw the Watts were in earlier, but they must have checked out.
They're next door.
Yeah.
One of the things that I've been thinking about, and it happened, I mean, Stacy's well aware of this. As we proceed into each of the ponds, one of the things that we have to do is notify the city councilor for that ward, and he should get involved. He should be ahead of that meeting with the people at the pond. That way people will know.
Oh, yeah.
People will know what's
Neil.
going on. So.
Sorry, I muted them. They didn't realize they weren't muted. You can continue.
No, I say if city councilors are involved in this thing, as each pond comes up, the abutters will automatically be notified. City council will do it. In this case, for Brown's Pond, I was there with Stacy. The mayor was there, councilors, Turco and Craig Weldron was there. It was a community affair. And that's what I see each of these lakes and ponds being. I don't see anybody, being ignored if that's the case. But I think the city council will play a vital role in this.
Through the chair.
Yep.
Yeah, Stuart, look, we can discuss this later, but I think Lucia is absolutely correct. It's a huge waste of money and time to notify people. I think there's a very simple way to do this, and that would be whatever pond we're going to be working on. And believe me, people will be more than aware, is that we make it part of an order of conditions with Solitude, that when we say, okay, next year, and again, I don't care if this is 3 years from now, 4 years from now, okay, the next pond is Brown's Pond.
Mhm.
They give, for the 2 months before they're gonna do anything, they post 5 big signs, not little 6x8s, 4 by 5 foot signs on a post that say that we're going to be doing hydro raking on this, starting in this month. And there's going to be a meeting, we're going to be, whatever, I don't know, however you want to say it, post them, and that's the end of it. And trust me, everybody will know.
Everybody will.
And we don't have to, and then there's no, that's your notification.
That's fine. No, it's, all right, so you want to add this as.
No emails, it's very little cost, and be honest with you, they can use the same signs over and over again. They can just take them up and put them and paint the new ones, the new location on. So I just think that's how we should do it.
It's a good idea.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yeah.
I also believe that we should not be mailing out notices for every individual pond, because if we're doing a universal NOI, this should be the only notification for the actual project. For the individual ponds, I agree with Bruce. I agree with the reverse 911. Whatever we determine is the best way to go about notifying the abutters. But mailing out notices just to mail it out does not seem prudent.
Okay.
Do we need a
That's it.
vote? Do we need a vote? on this?
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion?
Make a motion.
I have a motion to close made by Vice Chairman Rizzo, seconded by Secretary Vivaldi. I'm going to go ahead and do a roll call on the motion to close. Just checking, no one else is raising their hand. Okay, Chairman Lazares.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Rizzo.
Yes.
Secretary Vivaldi.
Yes.
Commissioner Comack.
Yes.
Commissioner Wojcik.
Yes.
Commissioner Green.
Yes.
And I think we lost Commissioner Cavicchio. So that would be 6-0. The motion, no one sees Rita Marie, correct? All right, so that would pass 6-0. Is my math right? 1, 2, 3, 4,
Correct. That's correct.
6. All right, great.
Could you,
On the order of conditions, Lucia, is that something you wanna, we don't need to discuss that now.
No, I think it would be a standard order. We need to make sure, like what Bruce said about the sign.
Yeah.
The universal,
And the narrative for each individual lake upon.
And then
And that's it.
the reverse 911. I think all
Yeah.
three of those things, DEP that might satisfy them
Yeah,
on their per pond.
Right.
okay.
And I think those are all things, I mean, Dominic, is that something, the sign is one sign, one large sign? I mean, some signs like Brown's Pond, I don't think you necessarily need more than two signs because there's most people have waterfront there. And then there's only half of the pond has city.
Right.
So I think it depends on, like in Crystal Lake, there's only that one area that you can really
Right.
put a sign. So we'd only need one. Elginwood, you only need one. It's right there. And
Yeah.
you know, Elginwood's pretty small. So I don't think we need multiples, but is that something, Dominic, that you guys could do? What size did you say again, Bruce? Like 5 by, what was it?
4 by 5, I think you said.
I mean, I just don't want to, you know, an 8.5 by 11 sign.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
it needs to be substantial. It needs to be
Yeah.
like, I don't know, 3
4
foot
foot
high, wide by 4 feet high, or 4
Yeah.
feet wide by 3 feet high. Something somebody can read when they're driving by.
Yeah,
That's all. It doesn't, I'm not trying to make it too big and, you know, again,
Yeah.
on a post, done, and that's it. And once one person sees it, everybody will start saying, did you see you're gonna be doing this? It'll just
okay.
go like wildfire.
Okay.
Very good.
Just a question of how does the order keep getting extended? The Solitude has to come back and request an extension, or how does that
I
work?
will be making sure that this is extended I will keep making sure this is extended for as long as I am working at the city. So maybe in the narrative for each pond, we could, like, because what I just said, each pond isn't going to need, 4 signs. Some ponds might only need 1 sign, and there might even be a message board already at that pond that we could put it in or right next to. So maybe that should go in each narrative.
That's
Yeah.
a good idea.
Okay.
Very good.
All right, so does someone want to make that motion? I can
I'll make that
figure out how
motion.
to word it as long as someone makes the motion that each pond has to have a narrative about those things.
I'll make the motion that each individual pond will have its own narrative with special conditions or special staging and signage suitable for that location.
In a meeting, not a public hearing, but a discussion item,
Yeah,
correct?
right. Yes.
All right.
Get a second?
Second,
Thank you, Bruce.
All right, so that is an order of condition, a standard order of conditions, adding the special condition about each pond and all of those things we just stated. And I'm gonna go ahead and do a roll call. Chairman Lazaris,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Rizzo,
Yes.
Secretary Vivaldi,
Yes.
Commissioner Komack,
yes.
Commissioner Wojcik,
Yes.
Commissioner Green.
Yes.
All right, so that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What? 1, 2. Okay, so it passes 6-0.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I would like to say one thing, and that is thank you for everybody's support. I believe this is going to be very beneficial for the city. And
Nice job. Nice job, Stu.
Thank you. But the Conservation Commission should be proud of themselves for doing this. And we will, that's what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
So we're doing our job. All right, moving on to.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Dominic.
Thank you, Dominic.
Take care. Have a good night.
You too. Don't drive too far.
Yeah, drive down my stairs.
There you
Grab a
go.
drink.
Be careful.
Take care.
All right, good night. Number 5, public hearing on a notice of intent submitted by Fred King DGT Associates for Mayor Edward Betancourt. Proposed work is a rehabilitation of existing school building with minor site improvements, including pedestrian walkway repaving, playground repaving, accessibility improvements, minor utility work, stormwater management, and landscaping. The property is known as 50 Swampscott Ave, map 104, lot 049. I believe it's a Welch school, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Is somebody here? Oh, Kevin? You have to unmute yourself.
Kevin, did I promoted you, Vivian, and Fred. Is there anyone else in the audience I need to promote on your team?
The only other person that would need to be promoted would be Bill Brown, the landscape architect, but I guess he doesn't really have a big speaking part. I guess if questions do come up relative to landscaping, if you could just quickly make him a panelist so he could respond accordingly.
I didn't see him on the list. Okay,
I promoted him, so he should be all set.
Perfect, thank you.
please proceed. Is Vivian going to speak first, or
Be right back.
Yes, I am. Thank you very much.
can you state your name and address for the record, please?
Yep. My name is Vivian Lowe. I am with Danisco Design. We are the architects on the Welch Elementary School project. If I may, Mr. Chair, I'd like to share my screen so we could share some background information with you and the commission.
Absolutely.
All right.
Lucia, can you handle that?
I think I have
There you
permission.
are. Okay, you did it.
Can y'all see my arrow moving around?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Here we go. All right, so as I said, Danisco Design are the architects working on the Welch Elementary School project. This is an MSBA funded project, partially funded by the MSBA. With me tonight is Kevin Riopel and Fred King from DGT Associates. They are our civil engineer and wetland specialist. Bill Brown is with Brown Sardina. He is our landscape architect, and not with us this evening is the owner's project manager, Doran Whittier, and Consigli Construction, who is going to be the construction manager for this project. So the project is, as you read, a renovation of the existing Welch Elementary School. This is primarily a building systems replacement and a accessibility project, as well as some interior renovations and a limited addition. The project will be a phased occupied construction, and we are seeking LEED certification, and we're looking pretty good to achieve LEED Silver. The project site, as you may all be familiar, is about a 19.6 acre site. It's bordered on the north and the west by Stormwater Brook and by O'Connor Park to the south, and a residential neighborhood on the east. So while the site is fairly large, our limit of work really is limited to the area around the building. So you can see here, the dashed line defines about a 4.27 acre parcel of work. So as I mentioned before, these are the proposed site improvements. We will be doing work on sidewalks to provide an accessible path from the surrounding neighborhoods. That will include curb cuts and some curbing work. We will be relocating accessible parking spaces into this existing parking area, creating a table so that there's an accessible path from this parking to the building. The existing playground will be repaved. The area where the play structures are will also have new finish and a new rubber surface. The basketball court, which is where the CM is planning on staging and locating their trailers, will also be repaved at the end of the project. So in this little area in orange is a 425 square foot building addition. There will be limited utility work, so some of the site work will involve doing a little bit of trenching and backfill. We are adding a sprinkler system in the building, so we are tagging on to the existing water service and creating a fire service that will go directly into the building. We have a little bit of deck bank work for communications, and that is pretty much it for utilities. There is going to be a fair amount of stormwater, work that Kevin will be talking about. So with this work, we will also have a little bit of planting. The site has a good number of mature trees, and those will be protected during construction. You can see that these little dashed lines around these trees are where those existing trees are. We will be planting a couple of red maples on the backside where the improvements are being made to the playground. And then there will be a few shrubby areas here, which will include deciduous, evergreen shrubs, as well as grasses and perennials. Kevin?
Once again, my name is Kevin Riopel. I'm with DGT Associates, the project civil engineer. I'm going to talk briefly about the wetland resource areas, stormwater management, and how we're complying with the DEP regulations and the city's regulations. So just briefly, the existing wetlands on the site were delineated by Fred King in our office back in September and October of 2020. The resource areas on the site are within the watershed of Stormwater Brook, which is a perennial stream and is classified as a river under the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, as well as the Peabody regulations. The river flows westerly through the site, along the western side of the site in about northwesterly direction. It flows underneath Swampscott Ave in 3 very large culverts, and then flows northeasterly along the northerly property boundary. Bordering vegetated wetlands were also found to exist along most of the westerly portion of the stream throughout the site. Next slide, please. So work within the jurisdictional areas. As Vivian had mentioned, we are proposing total alterations for the project, 4.27 acres of the total site acreage of 19.65. So relatively small in comparison to the entire site. We are proposing about 0.36 acres of work within the buffer zone, and we are proposing 2.18 acres of work within the riverfront area. And there is a total of 7.64 acres of total riverfront on the site. All of the proposed work is within previously disturbed and altered areas. There are no alterations proposed of any of the existing natural areas on the site. Prior to the start of any work, we are proposing to install all our perimeter erosion control barriers, which will be maintained throughout the construction process. I did speak with Lucia earlier today, and we are going to be adding some additional erosion control barriers. These are going to be installed to protect the westerly wetlands, mainly in the area of that parking lot where we're going to be doing handicap parking improvements. There is a little bit of repaving going on in there, very, very, very minor grading work in that area. So we are going to add some additional erosion control barriers on the plans in that area. Next slide, please. So without getting too deep into it, I'm not going to bore everybody tonight with my several hundred-page stormwater report, but I'd just like to hit some highlights for everybody. There are existing stormwater management features on the site. These include a porous asphalt parking lot, bioretention basins, other stormwater basins. And these were all permitted back in 2010 under a separate NOI, and they all have been constructed at the site. The existing building roof is collected and directed right to the brook. It comes out the north side of the building underneath the loading dock area, and we're not proposing any changes to the building roof drain system. And again, we are going to maintain all of the existing stormwater management features on the site. We're not making any alterations to any of those features. Next slide, please. So when we do our hydrologic analysis, we use HydroCAD. It's a modeling software. We look at the existing conditions and the proposed conditions. And in order to do that, we look at design, what we call design points. These design points for this project, we have 3 main design points. The first being the wetland areas in the brook to the west. Number 2 is the wetland areas in the brook to the north. And number 3 is the summation of the 2 design points. Essentially, this is one very large wetland system, but we want to look at it at discrete areas on the site. So number 3 looks at the total overall impact to the wetlands and the brook. Prior to discharge to these design points, we have analysis points. For this project, we have 5 of them, and they are, number 1 is the ball field area to the south. Number 2 is the existing porous asphalt parking lot. Number 3 is there's a low area near the existing playground. I don't believe it's a formal stormwater area. There is a head wall with a pipe that does convey water and runoff directly to the brook. So we want to look at what's going on there. Number 4 is the stormwater basin north of the building, kind of between the row of parking and the basketball court. And number 5 is the existing stormwater basin south of the building and just down gradient of the porous asphalt parking lot. Next slide, please. So like I mentioned, there are no proposed changes to any of these existing stormwater features. However, we are proposing 2 new stormwater management features. The first being recharger number 1. This is located off the new walkway coming down the hill from Putnam Street. This is being installed so that we can collect the runoff from this new paved walkway. It will be put through a deep sump hooded catch basin, and it will be discharged into this underground recharger. The system consists of 5 precast concrete underground perforated chambers set on a bed of stone and surrounded with 2 feet of stone. The system has been designed to collect runoff from the walkway and is sized for all storm events, including the 100-year storm event, to be collected, recharged, and retained with no computed overflow. Essentially, we're going to detain and recharge up to the 100-year storm event. However, we are going to provide a beehive grate to grade as an emergency overflow in the event of an extreme storm event or sedimentation buildup very many years from now. The second system we are proposing is a permeable rubber play surface. This is going to be replacing the existing playground area where it sits today. I don't know if anybody's seen these before. They're the very squishy, bouncy rubber safety play surfaces that are very common now in new playgrounds. This system is very highly permeable. It infiltrates at up to about 14 inches per hour. And underneath the rubber play surface is a stone reservoir. This system has the capacity, again, for all storm events up to including the 100-year storm event. And we are providing a subdrain system at the top of it, the stone reservoir, in the event of an extreme event. So we can convey water through a pipe system out in an emergency situation. Both of these stormwater features are being set more than 4 feet above the seasonal high groundwater table. We determined this recently with some on-site soil testing. The soils on the site are pretty good, fairly sandy soils with deeper groundwater, which is kind of rare, but great for us. So we are able to take advantage of that on the site. Both of these stormwater features are being used to not only detain runoff, but also provide the necessary infiltration. Next slide, please. Again, I'm not going to bore you with too many numbers and calculations. It is all contained in our stormwater report, but I do just want to briefly speak on the impervious area calculations. Within our 4.27 acres, we're looking at an increase of about 3,200 square feet in impervious area. However, 6,000 square feet of that is the very highly permeable rubber play surface. And if we read the stormwater management regulations, the DEP standards, in order to correctly determine the effect of the play surface, we have to consider that 6,000 square feet as impervious in our design calculations. But in reality, it's a very highly permeable surface, and we are really reducing the impervious area on the site by about 2,800 square feet. So next slide, please. So what does it all mean? After our stormwater analysis, we're looking at no increase in the peak rates of runoff for any of the storm events. That is the 1 year, 2 year, 10, 25, and 100-year design storm events. That's to any of the design points, either areas of the wetlands or any of the analysis points. The same can be said for the volume of runoff. We're not providing any increase in the volume of runoff to any of the design points or the analysis points. We are providing the recharge to meet the DEP stormwater regulations. Both the recharger number 1 and the rubber play surface are considered LID stormwater techniques, and we're actually reducing the amount of paved surfaces in the riverfront area by just over 1,100 square feet. I do have complete documentation, how we maintain compliance with all 10 standards in our stormwater report, hydrologic analysis, stormwater operation and maintenance plans are all in our stormwater report. So if anybody does have questions at the end of the presentation here, I'd be more than willing to get into as much detail as you'd like. So with that, I'd like to hand it back to Vivian.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.
So we just have a few photos to share to give you a little bit of context, and most of you may be familiar with the school. The site is, in terms of the pavement, is not in great shape. So where we can, we are repaving. However, the budget for this project is fairly limited. So we are trying to get as much bang out of the buck, if you please. So here's the front entrance, and this is the existing crosswalk. We are going to be building the addition right in front of this existing entrance to bring the admin area out so that it, so there is more of a presence once you enter and approach the building. That provides a great deal more security than they currently have. As you scoop around the building, this is the loading dock area that Kevin had referred to. Then as you scoot around the back, this is the back of the school, which is adjacent to the play. It's a paved playground. And this is the existing basketball court that will be used by the CM for staging. And then again, this is the playground area that is going to receive the rubberized play surface. And this then is the south end of the school. So we are currently in the construction documents phase of this project. We are planning on issuing 2 early packages. The site package goes out in April, and we anticipate the work to start for site prep as well as for building demolition this coming summer. Again, it's phased, and it's this project will involve children moving from quadrants of the school to other quadrants as they are completed. And we anticipate completion of this project fall, November of 2023. And that concludes the presentation. Happy to entertain questions.
Thank you. That's very informative. It's, is it the what the wetlands? Is it? It's a the is it a the area is it's a buffer. It's working in the buffer area, correct? As described. So it's
That's
really
correct.
Not even in the wetlands, not even close to the wetlands. It's all buffer.
It's all work within the buffer zone. Yes, that's correct.
It all sounds very great for the town and the kids. I support it.
Good
Great
presentation.
project.
I have a question. I have 2 questions, actually. Is it Gullwayth Brook that runs along the side there?
No, that is downstream, I believe. Fred, you may know the answer to that question a little better than I do.
Yeah.
It's strong water.
Strong water, okay.
Right on our site here, yep.
The strong water brook at the point where I've seen it, adjacent to the school, I'll say parking lot or driveway. Are you doing any work in there to clean it out? Because it's overgrown and it's, you know, it is just what it is. I keep thinking there's kids will fall in and never come out. That's not funny.
No, it's a sad thing, but you know, I think that the children, well, you're right. It's a neighborhood school, and I believe the teachers actually do bring the children out to study wildlife. But at this point, we do not have any plans on cleaning that area out. Maybe Fred can address that question.
Well, it's, yeah, there's no money in the budget to do anything with the wetlands at all on the site. And we're basically staying away from it. and trying not to interfere with what is out there.
One more question. You indicated that there is there is already a pervious parking lot, which I've seen. I poured my bottle of water on it and it goes in, but are you going to change all the parking to pervious?
We are not, no. We're actually doing very little repaving as part of the project here. We're not touching the porous parking lot. The biggest part of the repaving would be the playground area. Yeah, highlighted right there where Vivian's pointing to. We are making some very minor grading modifications around the handicap parking and at the table to get across the road. But other than that, we're keeping all the new pavement on site as regular asphalt.
Are you addressing the, I'll call it continuous potholes in the front?
Directly in front of the building, I know we're doing a little bit of repaving, but I know we had a meeting with the DPW and I think they're going to try to find some money as part of somewhere else in the budget.
Okay.
Maybe not necessarily here, but I think the intent is to, you know, get all of the pavement resurfaced out there, maybe do a mill and overlay. So we're working with them, understanding the needs for the pavement out there.
Because it's dangerous over there, driving or walking. So it's especially if you had kids. So otherwise, I think it's a great project, and I look forward to seeing it, happen. You're putting in sprinklers in this school, or you're just plumbing for the.
Yes. No, we are actually adding a fire suppression system.
Okay.
Yep, sprinklers.
And the city is connecting it to a high power, you have a storage tank for this, or?
No, it's being connected to the existing water service line, but it's going to be separate from the domestic water. So it will have its own line. And we have done a hydrant flow test, so there's adequate pressure.
Good. Okay. That's the end of my questions. I think it's a great project. Oh, one more question. Probably goes to Frederick. Will there be an OEM for this project when it's completed?
Operation and maintenance plan, you mean?
Yes.
Yes, there is one already. It's in the stormwater report that was prepared, and that's for the new stormwater features. And then you have an O&M plan for the existing features that are out there.
So the OEM, I mean, there's stuff in there for the Concom to look at and review.
Yes.
Okay. Can we get that at some point?
You have it.
Okay, so Lucia must have it. I haven't seen it.
And actually it's also, the whole report, including the O&M, is being reviewed by the engineering department. Kevin, do you know who's
I believe it was Bob Langley. I played phone tag with Will Politz today. We thought Will was doing the review of the stormwater. I tried getting in touch with Bob Langley, but I was unable to reach him today. So he is supposed to be reviewing the stormwater report, which the O&M is contained as part of that report.
And Lucia has, I think, the digital copy of the reports and all the plans. So
Through the chair, I think we lost Stu. He hopefully is going to come back on. It looks like he lost us, or we lost him.
I'm back. Go ahead.
Okay. So my question was, I think I read somewhere that the O&M plan that's included in this, is this lumping in the original O&M as well? I thought I saw somewhere in here or in correspondence today.
So the O&M in our stormwater report is only for the new features being proposed as part of this project. The intent of our O&M is to be included in the existing O&M that exists for the site. So it's just meant to be an appendix or an addition to the existing stormwater O&M for the site.
Okay. But you have the documents, Lucia?
Yes, everything is on the OneDrive. You guys
Okay.
all have access to them as well.
Okay, thanks.
Make a motion to close the public hearing. If there's no comments from the audience,
I actually think that we should wait until we receive comment from DPS.
that's a good idea.
Anybody in the audience want to speak? Okay.
If you are in the audience and you would like to speak, now would be the time to raise your hand. You have about a minute or so. Yeah, so I have not received a memo yet. Just looking to see if anyone's raising their hand. I have not received a memo yet from DPS. I did have a sample motion. If you guys, it sounds like Travis would prefer to wait until DPS, and I think that's not a terrible idea. I don't think that they were expecting you guys to close this tonight, but I mean, of course, if you were, they would be fine with it, I'm sure.
I think we should wait till we see the comments from the review from
I agree.
Will.
Okay. So do we need a motion to keep it open?
To continue.
Oh, motion to continue.
Okay. Second?
I make a motion to continue into is the next meeting reasonable? Do you think it's the February meeting isn't sufficient time?
We'll just make it for next meeting and then.
Yep, sure. So I make a motion to continue to the February meeting.
I'll second that.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and do a roll call. So the motion was continued until the February meeting made by Commissioner Vivaldi, seconded by Vice Chairman Rizzo. Roll call, Chairman Lazares.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Rizzo.
Yes.
Secretary Vivaldi.
Yes.
Commissioner Comack.
I don't see him. Oh, there he is.
Commissioner Comack. I'm going to skip him, go to Commissioner Wojcik.
Yes.
Commissioner Green.
Yes.
All right, so I don't think Bruce is really, according to the open meeting law, I don't think he's part of this meeting right now. So I'm going to have to go ahead and cross him off. So that is making it that there is only five commissioners, but going forward, any new commissioners just have to read the minutes tonight and watch the video and sign a piece of paper. So I just need to make sure they do it though, before the meeting. Okay. So the motion to continue passes. I guess it's 5-1 with Bruce not voting.
Abstaining, maybe.
Yeah, just not voting, I'm not saying he's voting no, just not voting.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The presentation, and I look forward to seeing the school when it's done.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
We'll
Good
see you in a month.
Yes.
Item 6, public hearing on notice of intent submitted by Ann Martin, LEC Environmental Consultants for RJ Kelly Management LLC. The owner is Analogic Corporation, Andrew Preet. The proposed work is the redevelopment of the property as a storage warehouse facility, including raising and removing all existing buildings and infrastructure and constructing a new state-of-the-art storage warehouse building with internal circulation, parking, loading facility, supporting infrastructure. Project is known as 8 Centennial Drive. Did you all hear that finish?
Yep,
Okay.
I just promoted Ann Martin with LEC and Scott Cameron, the engineer of record. And is there anyone else, Scott and Ann, who needs to be promoted to a panelist in your team?
Yes, can you promote Sean Smith to a panelist? And can I share my screen?
I have given you the ability, and I believe that would be yes, correct, Stu?
Yes.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right, we're in business. Sean, you want to, Ann Martin, for the record, from LEC Environmental, we filed the notice of intent. Sean Smith from RJ Kelly was going to start us off, and then I will give you an introduction, and then Scott Cameron will discuss stormwater and some of the engineering components of the project that occur within the commission's jurisdiction. So Sean, take us away.
Yeah, thanks, Ann. For the record, Sean Smith, RJ Kelly Management LLC, 55 Cambridge Street in Burlington, Massachusetts. Good evening, and thank you for being with us. I know it's been a long evening already. This is a large, substantial, and important project in our mind for the city of Peabody. And so obviously, you know, tonight will be our introduction to this project. We fully expect an additional hearing following peer review through our site plan approval process, which we have already begun. The process with peer review beginning shortly. We also have MEPA ENF filing that is in process, as well as a MassDOT indirect access permit for this project. I am very proud of the work that our team has put forward here, and that Scott and Ann will describe you to all of you this evening. It is responsible, and I think there are many environmental benefits related to what we're doing here. And with that, I would just like to turn it over to Ann and let them describe to you what our goals and objectives, as well as the current design strategy here is. So thank you very much.
So on the screen, you see an aerial image that shows the project site outlined in orange. I'm sure most of you are familiar with where this site is, but 128 is to the north. The Centennial Drive Connector Road is to the east, along with the Marriott Hotel. Centennial Drive runs along the southern edge of the property, with Jubilee Drive and another hotel, the Extended Stay Hotel, to the northeast. That gives you a little bit of site context for existing conditions. Here's the existing conditions plan. You can see that the large analogic building is centrally located on the site. It's outlined in this kind of brownish red color. There are 3 entrances located here, here, and here into the project site. The first entrance kind of takes you into the building. The second one will take you to the building or into the 3 parking lots in the eastern portion of the site. You can see that there is a large emergent marsh in the eastern portion of the site. And then there's kind of a shrub upland in the southwestern portion of the site. This green line that you see is the buffer zone. So you can see right now the extent of the parking lot and how close that parking lot comes to the edge of the wetland. And one of the subsequent plans we'll share, you'll see how we are pulling that pavement in that parking lot further away from this wetland system. In the eastern portion of the site, you can see there's a lot of topographic change in grade. This whole area is forested uplands. And then the extreme eastern portion of the site, there is the headwaters to Goldwaith Brook with a 200-foot riverfront area. There's a small finger of wetland that comes up that creates the 100-foot buffer. We were before the commission this past spring and summer and you approved all of these, the wetland boundaries that are shown on the plan. This next plan is a colored image that I'm going to use just to talk a little bit to what it is that we're proposing. So that what RJ Kelly is proposing to do is to raise the existing facility and install 183,000 square foot building shown here in brown, centrally located. There will be 2 canopies that extend off of each side of the building that Scott Cameron will talk a little bit more about. There will be, there's several different types of parking that are sectioned off and access is sectioned off. There's associate parking for folks who are working in the building shaded in yellow that have 2 dedicated access points. There's 313 parking spaces, and then there's 868 spaces that are fleet storage and driver parking spaces for the facility that are shown in blue in this fleet storage east, fleet storage west. Each of those have some dedicated or shared access. And then in the northern portion of the site is the truck yard in pink. This is where there'll be 17 truck loading bays, 5 storage areas for bringing materials into the storage facility. What's of particular interest on this plan, as you can see over here to the right, again, we are not doing any work within the buffer zone or any resource areas in the eastern portion of the site. In the western portion of the site, you can see that there is a stormwater basin that's been designed by Moore and Cameron to be between the wetland and the parking. So the pavement or parking that was here has been shifted further to the east. And then we've pulled the line of parking along here back further away from the wetland. A particular interest is along this line right here. I'm assuming you can see my little hand cursor. You guys can see that, can't you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
This is where there are EV charging stations. Under current conditions where the parking lot sits right on the wetland, oftentimes snow storage is pushed into the wetland. And along this area, there's going to be EV charging stations along here, and that will effectively prevent the snow plows from pushing snow into the wetland. So there's a little extra assurance that we'll be addressing some of the current problems with snow storage distribution. And then this next plan just shows in particular in relationship to the buffer zone how we're pulling back. So the red line is the existing limit of pavement. So you can see how close it is to the wetland system here. The blue line is how far we've pulled that pavement edge back. So particularly in this area, the pavement's almost all the way out of the buffer zone. Along here, there's a couple places where we clip or we maintain the existing footprint, but you can see it's been pulled back here. And in this area, almost all of the parking lot expansion is outside of the buffer zone. So that gives you a little bit of a setup for it. I'm going to pass it over to Scott now, who will talk about the stormwater management design.
Thank you,
And
Andy.
Scott-
Could you go back to the existing conditions plan? And good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Lucia, Happy New Year. Thank you for having us tonight. And for the record, my name is Scott Cameron. I'm a professional engineer with the Moore and Cameron Group at 66 Elm Street in Danvers, Massachusetts. And yes, very grateful to have the opportunity to be a part of this team and be part of this design and the application process with you. We did previously present our introduction to the planning board. And as Sean had mentioned initially, through that process, the city has engaged and the applicant has retained various consultants to do a third-party review on this, including the site and stormwater management design, which will be a key part of that review. And the site itself, you know, it's interesting watching the history of how this was built out originally in the early 80s. Speaking more specifically to a stormwater management perspective, we can kind of see how the project was built and some additions put on over time, and what they were doing for stormwater management at that point in time. In the early 80s, we really started to see more closed drainage conveyance systems. So we started to see, you're seeing catch basins and manholes and pipes. You're not really seeing a lot of treatment. You're not really seeing any form of mitigation or holding the water back on the site. It's more just making sure it drained the parking areas in the roof so there wasn't flooding in the usable portions of the property. Towards the later 80s, there was an addition put on. They did add a small infiltration basin to handle the roof runoff. This is kind of the start of some of the more modern stormwater management principles. We start to see those pop up, but in general, this site has very little to offer with respect to our current standards for stormwater management design and mitigation measures that we put in. So having an opportunity to take a project in a property of this size and of this developed condition and have a chance really to redo it. The reason we're calling these plans site development plans because it's that we are developing this site to fully comply with all of the current practices and exceeding a lot of the standards as well through the design. So I just wanted to note that while a big portion of this could have qualified as a redevelopment, there was a lot of effort put towards bringing this up to modern standards. Next slide, please. So Ann already went through the overall site. I won't go rehash that again. If you skip down, going down, next slide. And if you go down to the first zoomed in color site plan, we provided some in this presentation. I'm just going to go through a couple of the representative illustrations of what are in the site plans. Again, most of the project is outside of the buffer zone, the jurisdictional areas, although all of it does eventually drain to jurisdictional areas. So from a stormwater management perspective, all our discharge points on this side are in the buffer zone. And what you're going to see, typically this is in the fleet storage. When I say fleet, this is where the vans would be parked overnight. And what we see here is we are pulling the edge of pavement further away from the wetlands. The northerly part of this color diagram, you'll see a yellow strip, which is actually a sidewalk. And then you see a gray strip, which is an electric vehicle charging strip. And then you get to the parking spaces for the vans. So they won't be pushing snow over this area. They can't because that's where they need to plug in the vans. So this will really prevent and prohibit that occurrence from happening, whereas right now snow is just pushed directly into the wetland and off the edge of the embankment. You'll see the parking area, we're adding in landscape islands. You will see, in particular, kind of the middle top left, you'll see a drain manhole and then a kind of a U-shaped symbol closer to the wetland flag 828. That's one of the existing outfalls for the drainage system, which we are utilizing and reconstructing. So right now that outfall doesn't have really any erosion control measures to it. There's a little bit of stone at the end, but you can see how it's scoured and eroding because, it's just what it is. The newer outfalls will all be fully constructed with outlet protection, so we don't have erosion. And of course, the water that's coming out of those is cleaned before it gets there. If you could go to the next slide, please. This is really the rest of the work that's in the buffer zone. We pulled the pavement well off the wetlands in this area, between 50 and close to 110 feet further away. So the pavement got pulled way back. And in place of that, we are designing a stormwater management basin. This is kind of a combination basin where the lower part of it we will be in a rock or a poorly drained soil, and the upper part of it will be in a sandier, better drained soil. But at the end, this is going to be doing the bulk of our mitigation. So holding the water on site before slowly releasing it back to the wetland or recharging it back into the ground. You see again, there are, you can kind of see in the very right edge, there's an outfall, and then right in the middle of the basin, there's another one. Again, fully reconstructed, fully stabilized. And those are the only 3 outfalls that will remain. There are a total of 6 there now. I'll go through that in another slide. But those that remain will be fully stabilized in accordance with current construction practices. Again, all the stormwater management that is entering into this basin has been fully renovated. going through a treatment train of catch basins with deep sumps and hooded outlets, and hydrodynamic separators, which is kind of an enhanced way of separating out the finer particulate, oil, solids, and floatables from the stormwater before it comes into the basin. So you're actually meeting your standard of 80% total suspended solids removal before it even gets into the basin. And the basin, of course, does additional treatment. We're getting another upwards of 60 to 80% treatment just in the basin itself. So, meet and exceed the treatment standards of the Stormwater Management Handbook for all of our design points. I will say too, Ann mentioned there were a couple of canopies that extend off the building. The building itself will be a rubber or asphalt type roof. The canopies, however, will be a metal roof. And I'm sure you're aware in the Stormwater Management Handbook, metal roofs require treatment, and it's not just the standard TSS removal treatment. So I did want to point out that the roofs will be treated with a cartridge filter system, which is designed to allow the stormwater to be detained, slowly released through the cartridges, which filter out any of the metals coming off the roof. And again, before getting to the basin. So we're really hitting every checkbox and then some with the stormwater design. Next slide, please. Next slide is an overall of the entire site. And in particular, I just wanted to highlight in blue on the left side of the building's right in the middle of the plan. There are two larger linear retention ponds. So the one closer to the building actually has a water quality swale, which is several hundred feet long. So the runoff from the parking area will sheet flow into this. It receives treatment in that swale before getting to a sediment forebay and then to the retention basin. This is in an area that we were relatively limited to more structural means of treatment. This is an area we were able to work in a low impact or more of a greener passive treatment element into the design, which we felt was very appropriate and actually worked really well in this area. Then to the west, there are three other smaller basins. Don't be deceived, those are still large basins, approximately half acre each in footprint size. That is doing the management on the easterly side of the property for that parking area portions of the roof. And that runoff, none of it is within the buffer zone. The two basins to the north would discharge towards the Mass DOT highway layout, and on the shoulder of that there's an existing concrete swale. So we're mitigating the runoff and slowly releasing it to the DOT swale that eventually makes its way to a perennial stream, which you reviewed last summer. And then PS4, which you see that basin kind of in the middle, that one overflows and heads back out towards Centennial Drive towards design point 4, which is in the bottom right of the plan. Next slide, please. So spreading all the stormwater management out allows us to capture and recharge a lot of that volume. The blue circles you see on this plan, I'll cover this quickly. Those are the existing outfalls or discharge points from the site. You can see over the wetland, there are 6 of them. And then on Centennial Drive, there are 2. The 2 in Centennial Drive are closed pipe connections to the municipal drainage system. These are municipal storm sewers, or MS4s is the acronym. If you flip to the next slide, we are removing, as I mentioned, 3 of the outfalls that are going to the wetland now. So those will be gone. We are retaining 3 of them, but those will be reconstructed. And then we are adding 2 new outfalls to the northerly part of the property. Those are in green. Those are the ones I mentioned go to the Mass DOT layout. And on Centennial Drive, we're removing one of the connections, so that will be gone. And then the other connection on the very right, we are actually going to retrofit that with a treatment system. So the discharge to that is fully treated. And again, we're mitigating the runoff as well. Next slide. This is just the overall site plan. I want to close just a little bit with some of the other measures we've added into the stormwater management, which is a big focus. Again, had a clean slate. We worked through all this. Your stormwater ordinance in Peabody already has in it a requirement to mitigate volume of stormwater runoff. Under the state standards, we're only required to mitigate flow. Flow is usually what is going to contribute to your immediate flooding during the storm event. Volume is a more fickle thing to mitigate because really that can have more longer term downstream flooding impacts as water slowly drains, reaches more of the coastal areas, downtown Peabody, for example, which is where The entirety of this site eventually makes its way through Goldthwaite Brook. So as part of the volume mitigation design that we incorporate into this, the only way you're going to mitigate volume is you retain it on site and you put it into the ground. You recharge that to groundwater. And what we did, we were mitigating the volume, we're meeting the numbers, and we were very close to reaching a design standard, which we don't see too often, where the volume of water that we're retaining on site is actually mimicking a condition of the site as if we imagined it was a currently fully wooded parcel now, not taking into consideration any of the buildings, pavement, asphalt of the developed site condition now. So until we're providing more than 5 times the normally required recharge volume under the state standard, in mitigating the volume that leaves this site back to closer to what it would have been before anything was developed at all, which I thought was a really great milestone to reach for this. And something I'm glad we could work into it. Again, all of this is happening with superficial, more passive means of mitigation, very little reliance on closed structural means of stormwater treatment or mitigation on the site. So that was a really good thing I want to make sure you're aware of. And ultimately, all of this new infrastructure is going to come with a long-term operation and maintenance plan. So we design it, ultimately it would be built, and then there's longer term, how are we maintaining it? So we are providing in here a long-term operation and maintenance plan, which would run in perpetuity with the title of the property, something that does not exist on the property now. So again, this is another upgrade that really furthers what is happening now to current standards. I think, Anne, I've covered some, kind of the bigger points of the design. I'm happy to turn it back to you to close for closing remarks.
I think you did great, Scott. I'd turn it back over to the Conservation Commission, and where Sean and Scott and I are here to answer any questions that you might have.
I think this was a very informative presentation. I thank you for putting the time and energy into it. The only question I have is, why are the roofs not all rubberized and why are they metal?
Those are the canopies.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a design condition. The roofs, there's not a lot of pitch on these roofs. They're relatively flat. And in the area, they're not over a kind of a heated space. So metal is really the way they're open. What they're serving to do is when they're loading the materials that are stored in the warehouse back out to the vans to move them off the property, they want to make sure they're doing that under a shelter, so under a roof covering, so they don't get exposed to the elements. It is still open on all sides. We really don't have a good workaround for that. So what we did is we implemented a system that is very effective at removing metals.
I understand that part, but I'm just curious as to why you didn't use a membrane roofing instead of metal.
Well, I think Scott hinted at that, Mr. Chair. When you just like you would have perhaps in a vacation cabin up in New Hampshire, the metal roof actually performs a lot better in the case where you don't have the heated element underneath, when you have especially a large amount of snow load. So that's just, like Scott said, a design choice for longevity, and performs very well. And it's not uncommon, especially in industrial applications, I think, to see the metal roofing. So I think Scott's designed a strong pre-treatment, as they call it, system for 40% pre-treatment prior to discharge into the standard systems that he has here.
Thank you. Thank you. That answers the question. Anybody else in the commission?
I had a couple of questions through the chair.
Is that noise?
In the technical report, I was just wondering, there's a lot of rock and ledge in this property. And actually in a lot of places it's fairly shallow. I was trying to correlate the detention areas, the location of the borings on the site, and as close as I could to the proposed detention areas. I'm observing perhaps whether or not there's sufficient depth of cover over the elevations of refusal versus the bottom of the detention areas. In some cases, I'm getting like 1 foot between the bottom of one of the detention areas and where rock is. I'm using your proposed contours. So I was just curious about being able to, how the detaining of the stormwater would work in those areas where there's a lot of rock. In many cases, pretty close to where to the bottoms of the detention areas.
Yeah, through the chair, that is a good question. Something we spent a lot of time investigating. You will see there are, in I guess the areas where the basins are excavated closest to the existing grade, we do get close to what may be a rock. We don't necessarily believe. We tried to pick locations that were in between the rock profiles, and there's only a very slight cut on the one end. And then as the basin progresses out, it's flat, obviously, in every situation, the existing slope of land slopes away. So as you go further out across the basin, you get a greater depth soil. So where it might be 1 or 2 feet on the uphill side of it, it will be 4, 5, 8 or more feet before you even get to the existing grade on the other side. So we took kind of a composite. Of course, all of these, we would need to inspect the bottom of bed, prior to them backfilling and stabilizing it. There's a quality control component during construction, make sure we hit that. The only one we weren't confident one was the one I mentioned that's in the buffer zone. We know full well there is bedrock there. That one is functioning more as a detention pond than a retention. So detention is you're just holding and slowly releasing, and that one's designed with a bottom drain. But we have high confidence. Of course, we don't have a full crystal ball to see everything that's going on below the ground. So there's always some educated assumptions that go into the designs. But with the soil boring data we have, we're feeling very confident that we're darn close.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I may add, I just want to highlight too that Scott has done a good job of building in some conservativity into this design. If you recall that we're
5 times.
Our 5 times the volume.
That's why I was wondering if the 5 times was compensating maybe for some of these other areas and maybe a little tough to drain.
I believe it's less compensation as much as it is if we encounter an issue that we can't readily identify at this stage due to ongoing operations in an active site. We have the ability to continue with either some sort of modified design, with of course the commission's approval and whatever level of approval that is required. But I just wanted to highlight that one point.
I think pond 5 was the boring showed refusal at 2'10", and the depth and the cut there is 7 feet.
That's the one that we didn't assume infiltration throughout most of that. We only started infiltrate as you get towards, you see it's kind of like a table, and the thinner end is up higher than the lower end. So that's by design, because the lower end is just detention. We're just using that to hold water back and then slowly reset. So there's a small orifice in the very bottom of that basin to make sure the water will fully drain out of it.
And Scott, you have identified these on the plan, right, as either detention or retention, if that helps the commission.
Okay, good. One of the questions on the O&M plan, the long-term operation maintenance is very detailed. I really like it. But it's very committing. There's a lot of things you're saying you're going to do in the O&M plan for all the different criteria. And so that one of the issues we have, probably every city and town have, is the maintenance. You know, how do you police that, or make sure that the O&M plan is being implemented. I did notice in the report, you don't list an owner. There's like the owner's name. You don't have a name, an address of whoever would be responsible for running the system. It's going to be the owner of the property, which you would already know now, or is it just not, you don't know yet?
Can they give us Jeff Bezos' number?
So,
well, yeah, I'll field that one, Scott. So,
go ahead. Yep.
So, unfortunately, I don't know the exact terms of the agreement. There will be a short leaseback period for Analogic. Obviously, I am aware that the city is actively working with Analogic to hopefully find a place for them to live and continue to live, and that period is meant for that exact purpose. During that period, I'm sorry, I don't have the answer to that. However, as an ongoing measure following those 3 years, it would definitely be a requirement of the owner.
Yeah. Okay.
And I want to add as well, again, we're at the early permitting phase of this project. There's a long ways to go before we get to a point where we're coming back before you, not to be presumptuous, requesting a certificate of compliance. Typically, and especially with a project of this type, with the certificate of compliance, we're going to provide you also with an updated operation and maintenance plan. That plan will reflect the constructed conditions of the site because, sometimes things need to be adjusted as you're encountering things during construction. Again, we're using our best judgment now at this early phase. The end of it is a long ways away. As far as the question about policing, all I can say with that is, we as a local, I guess, society, not just your community, but everybody around, including the state, everybody's aware of this. I hear it in every community, in every meeting. And we are starting to see more and more obligations, especially into the EPA, MS4, and the requirements for reporting that they are putting on to the city engineering staff, which I think I heard another presentation are they're stretched very thin right now. Part of that is because they are actually doing a lot of this follow-up. DPS engineers in all communities are having to do this. So I do think we gotta just keep at it and be patient. And it is starting to turn. We are starting to see more responsibility, people taking more notice. The same as, we can pick things out from 20, 30 years ago that we kind of ignored that are now just normal. So I think it's on the title, it's there. It's enforceable, of course, if there ever is an issue. And I think I'm starting to see, things turn for the better in that regard. That's where my soapbox response, but.
Okay.
If I may, I'd like to ask a question. Regarding the swale, is it will be a vegetated swale or just grassed swale?
It will be grassed.
Okay. No consideration of little, but my thought in the past, I've seen other swales that have wetland plants, because it's not meant to be. It's a slight slope and a drain to the end, so it's not meant to be hold water. But at the end, you called it the more or less the detention area that.
So I think I got most of that. So the way this is engineered, everything is designed to be a dry, either infiltration basin or dry water quality swale, mainly because of the end user. Having anything really with standing water or even a muddy substrate or wetland plants offers opportunities for trash, litter, debris, injury, people trying to walk through them, et cetera. So one of the things we had to keep in mind when we were engineering this was ensuring that it could be easily maintained, that it was openly visible, so nothing really obstructed. and that's where we ended up. I will say that the vegetated swale and all these, although they won't have wetland plants growing in them, or they're not what we call a constructive wetland or a pocket wetland, these are, I guess, greener, if you will.
Yes.
Something we thought we were going to be going with all concrete structures below grade when we initially did this, which have other benefits, but I think this really helped us open up the property. So, you know, it's a lot more greener space than we initially thought.
And I would encourage you to review the landscape plan that we have with this, because there is a substantial amount of, especially canopy trees, new plantings, and some of those plantings do exist in that swale. So, and we're, you know, when we come back in our next hearing, more than happy to answer any questions about that.
I
But
recommend
for this hearing,
you
I thought it was more of an introduction, excuse me.
I compliment your team for improving the, since it's almost like you said, like a clean slate, and you're wiping it clean and starting fresh. It's a lot easier to improve, but it's a great improvement for the wetlands as well. And one last question. Will it be a phased approach, or kind of doing it, intending to go all at once?
At this time, we intend to go all at once when that time arrives. And obviously, this is a complex deal, as I mentioned, with a bit of a delay, but we're here in front of you tonight. And, you know, we'll be working with Lucia and the commission, obviously, to author a decision pursuant to that when that time comes. That allows for those options as it relates to specifically perhaps an area where we find that perhaps we do have shallower bedrock than we expected, and those sorts of things. So we do look forward to that conversation. Obviously, this is our first step, but I appreciate that comment.
This is a big site, and you are going to be cutting a lot of trees, and so I think I think you mentioned about doing everything all at once, but I think it's maybe important that maybe some of these BMPs are in place to help mitigate the runoff, you know, having the loss of all the vegetation and so forth. So I know you said you can do it all at once, but I think we have to talk more about that. I think maybe some of these BMPs need to be in place maybe first.
Yes, and through the chair, I think that's a fantastic point. In my mind, when you say phasing, I'm thinking, are we going to construct all of the parking lots at the same time? Are we going to wait on one parking lot for you know, a period of 5 years or something like that? But you know, you're absolutely right. I think in with the size and the scope and the nature, the construction management plan on this will be very important. And I think that's a big part of that, establishing those erosion control measures, using some of these basins as temporary sedimentation in process, cleaning them out to make sure they're where they're supposed to be. But that's a great comment. I appreciate that.
Okay.
Through the chair, I am wondering why there's such a great discrepancy between the associate parking and the fleet storage.
As far as
how there's that small spot on the southern side, and then massive parking lots on the west and east for fleet storage.
Yeah. You want that one, Sean? You want me?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and take that, Scott. Thank you. So operationally, the associate parking areas, those are primarily intended for the warehouse workers inside the building. And the way this will work is vehicles will arrive, the vans will remain on site. They'll be garage, quote unquote, in the city of Peabody. And the driver will arrive with his personal vehicle. He'll remove the van from its space. He'll park his personal vehicle in the space where the van used to be. So you have quite a bit of employment happening here, direct and indirect, third party, direct by Amazon. And that's the way they've been able to manage this and actually be able to, I know it doesn't seem it maybe by looking at a large project like this, but reduce their parking demand by sharing the space rather than providing another dedicated space.
So in short, every single one of these parking spots is going to be an employee.
Employees probably, they tend to employ third-party van drivers, so they're not direct employees. The fleet size you see here is certainly not the initial as they ramp up. You know, it's not the initial total van count, but you know, over time and certainly during peak seasons, they do plan to utilize this full amount. So I guess I can rephrase and just say, you know, on a standard basis, most of these spaces will not be used, but they are certainly used throughout the year.
I think just as a follow-up, believe it or not, we're actually reducing the total parking on site compared to what's there now. So what's on site now is about 1,340 parking spaces. And yes, these are larger spaces, but we're reducing those down to around 1,180, 1,181 in this condition. So we're actually taking some of the potential maximum parking load off the site based on total number of spaces.
My biggest concern is that large swath of deforested area. So I mean, that's a really tough pill for me to swallow. So I can't.
Any other questions from the?
The parking that has the two colors in it, this like this purple and blue, is that live parking? Is that what that is? That those trucks?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay. That's the queuing area. So they have a parade of vans and they queue them as they're loading next to them, and then they'll cycle them through. Where the orange is, that's active loading.
Okay. So the fleet storage parking, are those standard, those like regular parking spaces, like 10 by 20? Or are they bigger for bigger vehicles?
They're bigger. They're 11 by 27.
11 by
so
27.
So they're designed for a van to be safely maneuvered in and out.
Okay. So Travis, that's those areas, all the other areas are for the vans and not the employee parking.
Right. And I think that once the vans are removed, they'll be parked with the third party contracted out to utilize the vans, if I'm correct.
All right.
I do want everybody to keep in mind that I think Analogic, aren't they kind of like they were like a 9-to-5 business or whatever, and then this is going to be a 24-hour operation of noise and light and what have you. Just keep that in mind, you know. It's a lot of pollution.
Yeah. Well, everybody knows when you want to have your stuff delivered, you have to make it working 24 hours a day.
Are we to believe that the vans are all electric?
Initially, no. We're at the front end of a rollout for that electrical fleet, but Amazon has committed and will install infrastructure, underground conduit, reserve locations for future electrical equipment, to the extent that every van eventually may have that optionality. So obviously that's going to depend on a lot of things.
Well,
You know, decarbonization strategies, federal drivers, state drivers, those sorts of things. So, but also how quickly they can get vehicles. And as we all know now, supply chain issues are very real. So, but that's the best I can tell you right now, is that they are committed in to providing the infrastructure.
Is the owner of the building talked about putting in solar panels?
They will, this building will be fully solar ready. So the incentives are different with, you know, the city of Peabody municipal light and plant. But this conversation is at its initial stages with municipal light and plant. And certainly it's, as with anything else, there are a lot of considerations there. Again, decarbonization, tax incentives, other incentives. But the interesting thing with that is we have engaged Arup as well to help us study the effectiveness of a solar strategy here, specifically when we do have varying levels of the fleet charging over time. But obviously that fleet charging typically happens overnight. So that would require a massive amount of batteries that just don't exist at this point. So, you know, at this point, it would power and help run any HVAC equipment, lights during the day, primarily the warehouse operation. And so we have that under study, but it is solar ready, or will be solar ready.
So if we're moving towards electric vehicles, and PMLP is going to be providing the electricity, again, without solar help, is PMLP in a position to come up with more electricity as needed?
Well, at this stage, we have had that initial conversation, and the existing building, I know we're kind of diverging a little bit here from conservation, but I am happy to answer your question.
Well, the conservation part is that it winds up being better air if we get rid of the hydrocarbons.
That's a fair point. I will say that Analogic is one of, if not the largest user of power right now. And so the power profile at the moment, with the initial rollout and even sort of a mid-range fleet, electrical fleet, is still going to be less than what PMLP provides to Analogic.
Okay. Good answer.
That's for all the services. That's water, that's everything. Yeah, you guys are using less energy, less service, less water, less than Analogic did.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, warehouse certainly has fewer employees than within the building than Analogic currently. Most of the drivers are out on the road. So, you know, water, sewer demand, all of that is a little different. And, you know, we're sort of in a transition phase as well between heat pumps, natural gas, and, you know, we'll make that determination as we move forward here. But
okay, it's a good presentation.
Okay.
Open it to the public if there's any questions.
We have a public.
So if you are in the audience and you wish to speak, now would be the time to please raise your hand.
I don't see anybody raising their hand, do you?
No.
All right.
Make a motion to continue.
Yeah, I think we need to continue this because we want to have a public service do a review on the stormwater. So I'd make a motion to continue this to our next meeting.
Or is 1 month enough, or should it be 2 months?
I don't know.
You did, may I ask?
I'm sorry, please proceed. I'm sorry.
You guys mentioned that it was might be peer reviewed. Am I correct?
It will be peer reviewed. We actually have the applications in front of us now that we'll be paying for. But I think as applicant, what I would request is that we continue to the next hearing. And if it's not complete, we'll just continue again.
Okay.
Good.
So we're continuing. We got
There was a
a
motion made by Rizzo and it hasn't been seconded yet.
Second.
Okay, so Bruce, were you here for this entire discussion? Because we had to take you off for the last discussion.
Yeah, I was here for the whole discussion and for the last discussion, but whatever.
Well, you definitely
I know,
weren't
whatever,
for the
yeah,
last discussion.
All right, whatever. I was there for every second of this. As you could see.
All right, I will go ahead and do a roll call on that. Chairman Lazares,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Rizzo,
Yes.
Secretary Vivaldi,
Yes.
Commissioner Comack,
Yes.
Commissioner Wojak,
Yes.
Commissioner Green.
Yes.
All right, so that's continued until the February meeting.
Very good.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
What's the date of the February meeting?
I believe it's February 9th.
Okay. All right. We will see you all then. Thank you very much.
Have a great evening. Thank you.
Number 7. Continued public hearing on a notice of intent submitted by William Manuel of Wetlands and Land Management for Regency Realty Trust, Alfred DeMambro, the trustee. The proposed project is the construction of 2 buildings and site improvements, paving, utilities, etc. in the riverfront to the North River. Property is known as 11 to 13 Wallace Street, map 85, lot 41A. This has been continued till tonight. I'll make a note, the applicant has missed the deadline to file supplemental revised paperwork in responses to the DEP comments, and the applicant has failed to submit escrow funds for a peer review of the request that was requested in April of 2021. Where do we go from here? Move to
Take it off the
continue.
agenda.
Huh?
Take it off the agenda.
Take it off the agenda.
The attorney actually requested a continuance, a written continuance today. We're on 11 to 13 Wallace, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
Yes, last minute, he sent me over a request after I informed Brendan, Kurt, and the mayor that nothing, was going on. So one of them must have got in touch with him, and he requested a continuance at the last hour, of course. He's saying it's the city's reason is why he couldn't get us any paperwork. So I would suggest that this time you continue until at least February. They claim that Eastern Land Survey is going to be submitting some breaking plans within the next few days.
Under a new notice?
No, under this. As of right now, what they submitted absolutely cannot be permitted.
No. We did our site visit.
Yeah.
And, I couldn't believe all the stuff I saw on that site. This is floodplain, and I have some serious concerns about the existing topography and the elevations topography, as opposed to maybe what the topography used to be in a floodplain.
And it's just mounds of all sorts of debris, right?
Yeah, I mean, So,
They changed the level of the land.
yeah, I think we have to do probably some investigative work, do some test pits, find out where the ground really should be. But beside that, this is a long way from anything happening on this site. You know, until we're satisfied, there's a lot of things. DEP has many questions. So anyways, we'll continue it to our next meeting.
Yeah, I mean, you can always deny it next month if once again they show up. I really don't think February is going to be enough time for them to get all these plans in. But I will give them the benefit of the doubt and we will see. But I mean, at that time, I mean, I know that the city is hoping for a bit of the land for the Riverwalk, but that shouldn't be swaying your decision. Obviously, but it does in a way. So right now they're not even showing any of the Riverwalk on the plan. So that's something that needs to be addressed as well.
Okay. Great. I'll make a motion. We continue this to our next meeting.
Seconded.
All right, give me one moment. So that motion was made by
me,
Vice Chairman Rizzo, seconded by Travis. I'm going to go ahead and do a roll call. Chairman Lazaris. He is frozen. I'm going to skip and go back to him because he'll pop back in. Vice Chairman Rizzo.
Yes.
Secretary Vivaldi.
Yes.
Commissioner Comack.
Yeah.
Commissioner Wojcik.
Yes.
Commissioner Green.
Yes.
And Chairman Lazaris.
Yes.
All right, so continued until the February meeting, 6/0.
Okay, number 8.
Is 8 and 9 continued?
We're on 8. We moved to
Yeah,
8.
I think, yeah. 8 and 9 are both the same address, but I think the applicant requesting a continuance for both.
Oh.
He did, and I would just say, even if he continues it until February, I would still say you shouldn't vote on it until the order of condition has passed all appeal periods, which I have not even drafted it yet, and which I'm way beyond the 21 days after Jack got you guys to vote on that. That was a shock to me. And I would also not vote on either of these certificates until they get their special permit from City Council. That's a big one, because just because you guys voted on the order of conditions and you think they're going to be breaking ground, City Council could flat out deny this. And then now we have 2 closed order of conditions that never gave you as-built and no plan to go forward. So they would have basically usurped the commission and gotten 2 free certificates on commercial property. So I would suggest even next month that if they don't have a special permit in hand, that it should get continued as well. But yes, both of these, they did ask for a continuance until February.
Do we have a motion to continue?
I'll make the motion, but do you have to read the thing, the agenda item?
Oh, do you want me to read the agenda item? I will. Number 8, continued request for a full certificate of compliance is made by attorney Matthew Snell on behalf of Stall USA Inc. for DEP file 55-312. The project was the construction of a service building with associated appurtenances and land grading. Their address is known as 13 Corwin Street, map 92, lot 8. Should I read the number 9 also?
I'll make a motion to continue that now.
All right, continue 8.
Yes.
Okay. Got a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Yep, Chairman Lazaris,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Rizzo,
Yes.
Secretary Vivaldi, Commissioner Comac,
Yes.
Commissioner Wojcik,
Yes.
Commissioner Green.
Yes.
All right, 6-0 for DEP file number 55-312.
Okay. Number 9, continued request for a full certificate of compliance as made by attorney Matthew Snell on behalf of Stall USA Inc. for DEP file 55-323. The project was the construction of a commercial building with associated appurtenances, grading, and mitigation efforts for the demolition of an existing building and its appurtenances to accommodate a commercial building. The address is known as 13 Corwin Street, map 92, lot 6. We have a motion to continue.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Thank
All right,
you.
I'll do a roll call. A motion made by Travis, seconded by Vivaldi to continue the certificate request for DEP file number 55-323. Chairman Lazaris,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Rizzo,
Yes.
Secretary Vivaldi,
Yes.
Commissioner Comac,
Yes.
Commissioner Wojcik,
Yes.
Commissioner Green.
Yes.
All right, passes 6-0.
All right, number 10. I'm going to read it, but it's been continued till May. And it's for the record is a continued request for a full certificate of compliance is made by Frederick Hopstrap of Neptune Engineering on behalf of 160 Main Street Realty LLC, Nikolay Polinovsky for DEP file number 55793. The project is a redevelopment of a previously degraded site for commercial and residential proper use. The address is known as 166 Main Street, Peabody, Mass. A partial certificate of compliance has been issued, and the item will remain on the agenda until a full certificate can be requested. So I don't need a motion, it's just being continued till May. Okay. Item 11, enforcement order violation orders. Continued discussion of a violation order issued to M&R Trucking and Paving for the alleged violation, washing fleet trucks with soap in the riverfront and draining the water contents directly into the river with no treatment or permission from the local commission or stormwater committee. The address is known as 119R Foster Street and over Peabody, Mass. Is the applicant here?
Michael Wood to a panelist, so he should be
Hello?
able to speak.
Yes, I'm here.
Can you state your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, Michael Wood, 119 Rear Foster Street, Peabody, Mass.
Okay. At the last meeting, we talked about using a different detergent than Dawn, which would help the environment. And I believe we talked about something called Simple Green. But the real issue is that the water goes from your pavement into the river with no mitigation. And we don't know what's in that water. So I'm looking for some help in putting in some sort of detention that would allow us to treat the water before it goes into the Galwaith Brook.
Okay. So what do you recommend for me to do? Put some silk socking along the edges or something?
Well, I guess my recommendations are not I think you should find somebody who is licensed and engineer to come up with a solution that you can use, because if I suggest something, it's not necessarily going to be the best. And I don't know what to tell you, but you can't keep washing trucks and dropping the water into the river. Because that winds up just flying in the face of stormwater management and, you know, what we're here for.
Well, I have an area that down there that I can wash the trucks in. It's stone right now.
I'm sorry, say it again.
I have an area in the yard that I could wash the trucks that is stone, you know, that is stone right now, that I could wash them there.
I'm not the one to say okay or nay. Is anybody in the board have anything to say?
Oh, I think it needs to be, have some form of treatment, you know, if it's contained, or maybe put in a dry well where it can be filtered, you know, through the ground before it gets to the resource areas. That might work. But that's not something we should be designing.
Right.
Through the chair, I spoke to DEP and they did suggest he file a notice of intent to continue doing what he's doing, exactly what you and Stuart just discussed, that it's not up to us to figure out where he should and shouldn't wash. And it's not up to us to design anything for him. It's really up to him to figure out, he needs to hire a specialist, and then they need to come back to the commission, either with preferably an NOI. It sounded like the way DEP, the wetlands division would like it. I was not able to talk to anyone in the stormwater division. They were all on vacation. I can try and get in touch with them, you know, in the next few weeks or something. But at this point, we do have a stormwater ordinance. The environmental engineer stated that what he's doing is illegal. He has not given any permission. I personally am on the stormwater committee and I never voted on this. So I just want you guys to realize we do have a stormwater ordinance. What he is doing is illegal. We have an email from the environmental engineer saying it's illegal. He did not give him permission. And we just need a paper trail going forward. I mean, at this point, he probably shouldn't be washing trucks there.
Through the chair, so let me get this right. The DEP, someone from DEP came down, was not notified by anybody. They came down and they went to his garage and saw that happening. How did DEP get involved?
Well, there was numerous complaints to my boss, and my boss gave me the complaint. The person does not want to be listed because they are actually afraid. And I call DEP because that is my job.
Oh, you call DEP, okay.
Is there something wrong with me?
No,
Stu asked me to.
I just want to know how DEP got involved.
Well,
because that's literally our job, is to work as a joint effort with the Mass Department of Environmental Protection. That is my job.
Yeah. Again, the recommendation, I would like to hear a motion to continue, but I would like to have Michael come back with someone that he's hired to comment on the situation that's licensed and can help him out.
That's what I'll do. I'll have to look into somebody that I can get. I'll a environmental engineer, and then I'll get back in touch with you.
Okay. We have a motion to continue?
I'll make a motion to continue.
Seconded.
Okay, so that was continued by Vice Chairman Rizzo, seconded by Amanda. Roll
Correct.
call. Chairman Lazaris.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Rizzo.
Yes.
Secretary Vivaldi.
Yes.
Commissioner Komack.
Yes.
Commissioner Wojak.
Yes.
Commissioner Green.
Yes.
All right, so it's continued to February 620.
Hey, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other discussion items, and I have two that I wanted to bring up. There is a North River Zoom meeting that's taking place, I think this month, and
25th.
I'm sorry?
We haven't finished the
25th?
agenda yet.
I think it's a 25th. I gave it to Lucia to send out to everybody. There's
Yeah,
a
the 25th.
Yeah. But I'm recommending everybody on the commission sign up for it and hopefully attend, because we don't know what they're doing. Second, I'm looking to put together a subcommittee to rewrite our bylaws. There's things that we need to change, and we've discussed it with Kurt, and I think Kurt and Lucia came up with a subcommittee as an answer. But there's things like fees, number of copies of documents. Things have changed, and I just want to hear a group subcommittee come back with recommendations. Okay, then those recommendations would get voted on and presented to City Council. So they have to approve the changes.
Okay.
Okay.
I've always, when that bylaw was established, I thought that I think there was some discussion about being very careful. We have a bylaw now, and now you want to change it. And you do that, and anything's on the table. You go back to the public and you go through to change our bylaw, then other things can change, things that maybe we don't want to change that is beneficial for the Conservation Commission and the environment. So I don't think you can just go and change one thing without having the whole bylaw subject to a review and change. I could be wrong about that, but
I think you're right, Michael. The regulations are different. I think that if does the city have, does the commission have regulations, right? That regulations can be just changed and reviewed without opening it up to the public, but the bylaw, the ordinance is something different.
maybe you can add an ordinance, or maybe there's a way of adding something to the bylaw to, you know, cover fees or something that is important, but to go and change the bylaw, I think we got to be careful.
Mike, I think I've had the same thought as you. I did discuss it with Kurt, and I can get into further discussion with the city solicitor and Kurt again, and we can really dig in if you want me to. The way I am understanding is that you would create a subcommittee of 3 people, and I would obviously probably be part of that to take all your notes and everything. And it would be 3 people, so it's not a quorum. And then from what I understand, you do not need to go to the public. You just go to city council and they would approve the changes. So you are correct, though. They can start taking things out if you think we have a more pro-development city council. So yes, there is that. I was hoping that we don't, and we could actually tighten things up, especially like the kettle holes and isolated wetlands. I think that we should make those smaller, actually, so that they're protected more. But I mean, it's a lot of work. This is a very huge project to start doing. And you are correct, Mike, that I think city council could start gutting it if they wanted to. I don't think they will, but you never know.
Yeah.
Isn't it called an ordinance when it's in a city too, and versus a bylaw in a town?
I don't know.
Yeah, it is. But
well, we have bylaws and we also have the ordinance, and the ordinance, I think we would be trying to change mostly all of those things. I can definitely look into changing just the fees, because I don't think that is part of the ordinance per se. I know city council voted on it, so I can find out just specifically the fees, because our fees are very outdated. I mean, $20 for an RDA. I mean, for a single family house or like, you know, a normal resident, yeah, that's fine. But for some of these, like that Tremont Street that came before us, he came before you because it was $20 and it was easy to figure out.
I agree with that, to jack up the prices for commercial projects for sure.
Yeah, as well as like certificates of compliance. Like if your certificate of compliance is 30 years old, it shouldn't be $50. It should be like $150. Like just because it's 30 years old, you shouldn't get a deal because you waited 30 years to file a certificate. You should get some sort of, you know, slap on the wrist.
Well, I guess the question is, can we get 3 people to work with Lucia and start this process? Nothing changes unless we make it happen. I mean, we're looking at getting lakes and ponds hydro raked and mechanically harvested. And to the city, it's revolutionary. Changing bylaws and ordinances, it's just keeping up with the times. And I'm not too sure about just fees. I think there's other things we should look at. But I'm looking for 3 people to spend the time to look at it.
I'm assuming that we would be meeting via Zoom.
Yeah, well, for sure, for the time being.
Well, it wouldn't be a public hearing, so we could absolutely meet Zoom or Teams, as long as Teams, I'll always have Zoom. When the pandemic's over, we might get rid of it, but I don't know. So I would definitely want to do it virtually and not in person.
I concur with that.
Yeah, I just think you should check with the city solicitor first and see whether or not, because obviously cost of living and all that kind of stuff changes over the years, that the cost of a permit or fees should be able to change with the times without changing our bylaw.
Yeah, I've already done extensive research over the last 5 years comparing Beverly, Danvers, Salem, even other outskirt towns, and we are the cheapest of cheap. Like, it is pretty much ridiculous, our fees.
Well, why don't that could be like a starting point. And then, because I don't know, like, I'd be happy to help, but it sounds like it's more time than I have available.
I'm not really clear why we have to, I understand the other considerations as far as the bylaws, but why can't we just change fees?
Yeah.
Why can't we just, I mean, I'm sure you have to go to the city solicitor, but why can't we just say, okay, here's the new fee schedule?
But
Yeah.
Not really
that's
sure.
fine. That's fine, Bruce, but are you gonna chair the subcommittee?
No, but
I
why do
can come up with
why
the
do you need a
fees.
subcommittee? Why do you need a subcommittee to do that? Why can't we just say, Lucia, figure out what you think is fair,
Okay.
and then go to the, I don't know, again, I don't know the procedure, but it seems
I
like we're
don't
making a
think-
big deal out of nothing.
I
It
don't
seems like, oh, why can't you just go to the city council and say, these are the new fees, how do we get them approved?
I don't think there is a procedure.
I
I
can
think-
find out. I think as far as the fees, I feel like I have a good grasp on what local bordering communities are doing. And I can, before I would do anything, I would let you guys all see them. And if you're like, Lucia, that's crazy, those numbers are unaffordable, you know, obviously I would dial it back. So I can find out from Kurt what I would need to do to change the fees. Now, the reason why we have to have a subcommittee is if once you start changing other things in the ordinance, it has to be not just what one person or the agent wants. It has to be what the collective group wants, and then everyone would need to vote on it. So even if I decide to come up with my own fees, we should be discussing it at a meeting, a public hearing as a discussion item, so that it's not just me telling you guys, this is what we're charging. But I can definitely find out. Again, I was asking Kurt about the fees last May, and things got kind of crazy and I never went back to it, but it's something that I have been wanting to do for well over a year, like 5 years at this point.
You have mentioned it before. The thing I've been wanting to do is to upgrade a bylaw and ordinance that says that Lucia must get 13 or 15 sets of plans, when most of the time we just need an email, a digital plan and 2 hard copies for her to register. And that's going to require a public hearing.
And I'm not sure that's, I don't know the procedure, but it seems like a lot of these things, why, it just doesn't seem like you need to get an act of Congress to do it.
You don't. We came up with doing digital filing. People can send stuff into us digitally. And we've also hired a company to take all the old files, scan them and digitize them. So we get rid of the paper. We didn't ask for.
Then why do you need 15 copies?
I'm saying we don't, but the law says you do.
But how I ended up sort of skirting that, because it is in our, if you go and look in our local ordinance, it actually does say, I believe it's 14 copies, and there's no mention of digital copies, which we have moved into the digital age. We're done with 14 copies that no one looks at except me. So
yeah, but people.
What I have done is I have revised checklists. So the checklists are what are on the website and what go to applicants. There's only a handful of applicants who actually read the ordinance, and they're just like, do you actually need 14 copies? Because your checklist says this. Most people don't even read it. So thank you, Stu, for reading it.
Well, my point is that the checklists are fine, and I appreciate the work you did putting together that, but that should be incorporated in a policy or some sort of procedure for people looking for NOIs, RDAs. Just make that the law instead of the ordinance we have, and get rid of all.
I've always been told that a board or a commission can have regulations that can be adopted from time to time, where an ordinance or a bylaw has to be discussed by town representatives or city council, whatever, what it may not be. So if we were to develop some sort of regulations, then we can amend them when and how we choose by adopting it, a majority, have a public hearing and a vote, have a vote of us, a majority vote of us, we can adopt and change those regulations. But when we want to open and discuss an ordinance or a bylaw, then it's open to the whole town.
Michael Rizzo, what you've been here the long, what is your concern?
My concern is look what's happening in Congress when you have a bill and you're trying to get something through. It doesn't get through unless you put this in or you take that out. If you put our bylaw out there and subject to review, and you want to change something, that opens it up for somebody else to change something else. And I am not one to want to go down that road. I know I'm looking for a way to increase our fees proportionally to the cost of conducting business. I am not in favor of changing our bylaw.
Okay, so I guess so. Then the important thing is, which I'm sure Lucia can figure out or go to. I guess I don't know who she goes to, but
yeah.
I mean the city solicitor, Kurt.
Yeah, I think we should ask the city solicitor. I just want to be careful that it doesn't open up, puts us in a position now to be fighting and people wanting to find a way of changing our bylaw, and this gives them the opportunity to do so.
So maybe we can consider, Lucia, can you ask the question if we can adopt regulations?
I think if it comes to fees and the cost of doing business, I think I would think there's gotta be a way.
Right, the
of Any
regulations would
municipality
be,
be able to do that without changing,
right.
I did
the
ask
fees-
this question over about, in May of 2020, May of 2021, and I will try to get an answer very soon about it. I think people are nervous about raising fees, especially for just normal residents, which I wouldn't really want to raise them that much on anything single family anyway. It's the commercial ones and these 30-year-old certificates of compliance and extensions as well. Even it should be like at least $10 for an extension. I mean, other towns actually charge money for tree removal.
Yeah, no, I know, my daughter.
I gotta sign off, guys. I gotta get up at 3 for work, so.
Yeah.
So we done with this agenda? I'm out.
You're good. I'm gonna put you down at 10:49. Thank you, Amanda.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think, like my daughter, she lives in Beverly and she's she's making her deck a little bigger. And she's got to pay like $1,200 for
fees.
TV, for newspaper ads and notifying abutters and stuff. It's like, that's ridiculous.
Well,
$600 to put it in the ad in the paper.
Lucia got a call from somebody today screaming about the same thing.
Yeah, our ads, I try to get them, they're under $200. If they were in the Salem News, they probably would be about $600, unfortunately.
Yeah.
$600 now?
Yeah, just to put expand her deck, it's $600 to put the ad in the paper. They have to pay more.
If they're meeting via Zoom, the ad gets doubled because of the Charlie Baker blurb. So unfortunately, that's one of the negative things about meeting Zoom. You're adding an entire inch column.
Right.
Well,
so
we can discuss it again. We'll
Yeah.
continue to look amongst ourselves and come back in February and see where we are.
Yep, I will bother Kurt again. He loves getting bothered by me. And did you guys end up reading the minutes for November and December?
No.
Yes.
I unfortunately did not. I started to, but I didn't complete them.
All right, so no vote. They're already on the city's website. So no one read them. No one wants to vote to accept them.
I read them.
I mean, I guess you don't need to tell me you didn't read them. You can just say you accept them. Or we can just, at this point, we probably should wait until next month and approve them, I guess.
I did not read them, so I'd like to wait till next month.
Can I make a request for Lucia to add the agenda into the area where you have the file of all, you click on this month's meeting document, you can find all the different NOIs and RDAs, but then you also add the agenda right in that too?
Oh, I'm sorry. Have I not been putting it in there?
It's separate, like you send it to us as a separate email.
Oh, yes, I'm really sorry. I will definitely start putting it on the OneDrive. That's what you mean, right?
That's correct.
Yep. Oh, I'm really sorry about that. Yes. I am not going to put the redlined agenda though. That's just for you guys.
Right. Yeah. But just the stamped agenda, whatever.
Yep, absolutely.
I have a question regarding the OneDrive. Is it reasonable to put the OneDrive data on our website?
Why would you want to do that?
If you want IT to never speak to me again, yes. But the problem with that is that other communities were doing it during the height of the pandemic, and it makes it hard for applicants because they have to remove their checking information or anything like that. Otherwise, I would be doxing people. I would basically be giving out all their information on the web, and people would. So it.
What's your point, Stu?
Why do you need that? The reason I'm suggesting it is, if you look at a city council agenda today on the city website, the clerk has put all the attachments in there that city council gets. And I don't know that that's public information. Once we approve minutes, they're public information. Anybody can get them.
Right. Once you approve minutes, Lucia posts it to the website. But
yes,
the
but I'm saying
OneDrive,
that-
the OneDrive is the application
Yeah.
materials that only the commissioners are.
Yeah.
I'm,
You don't
but
want
I'm,
everybody,
I'm suggesting that if there's documents out there for tonight's meeting, like this presentation on the analogic redo, that stuff could be out there with the agenda. People
Lucia,
can look at that and comment.
So I don't know why, I don't know why.
I don't know, Lou. I don't know, Stu.
People email me today, for instance, right before the hearing, someone did email me about the Welch School, and I sent them the link to the OneDrive that you all get, and it expires in like a week. So
Exactly.
the problem putting it online is you're putting it out there for not just residents, you're putting it out there for hackers that know what to do with a banking account. Well, you're asking for, trust me, this is something we've already talked about over the pandemic. And it's something that's extremely difficult, because if someone scans in an NOI, they're scanning it in all in one page. They're not thinking, oh, let me take my my DEP checks and remove it, because by law, I need a copy of the DEP check. So that's all scanned. So even the people today, I sent them over that information, unfortunately. But on the notice to all abutters, it says that they can either call the applicant, email the applicant, call me, email me, and that would be the way to get the information.
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like putting that out there.
Okay, all right. It's just a thought, because it gives people the information before the meeting. That's all.
It's also given me about like 5 hours of extra work possibly to do, and IT is not going to be happy with me.
Look at the opportunity. You might get some help.
I do not, they're not hiring a clerk. I'm not getting an assistant. I am going to be a one-woman show, I would imagine.
I don't know that.
So.
I think that if we change the way we do business, it will require more help.
I don't think it should be out there until it's all ready.
Okay. Well, I mean, certainly Ann Martin's presentation could have been out there. It's a document.
Just a quick anecdote. When I was probably 16 or 17 years old, I went into Lucia's office. This was before the pandemic. Went into Lucia's office and asked for the Kinder Morgan pipeline plans. So if somebody is really looking to get that information, I think that they can do what a 16 or 17-year-old went through.
Yeah, and now it's all digital. People can just email me and I scooch it right on over to them. And today the woman, I sent her a link. But it's 11 o'clock and I have to work like a 9-hour day tomorrow. If we're not voting on minutes, could we maybe adjourn, guys?
Yeah, I gotta have supper.
I had supper in the middle.
I
Do
didn't
we
have
have a
supper yet.
motion to adjourn?
You want to just vote on the minutes quick? Or?
No, I thought we were gonna wait till next month.
Wait till next month.
Next time.
Yeah.
Wait till next month. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Good night.
All right, guys.
Good night. Thank you.
Who
Thank
seconded it? I have Travis motioned.
I'll second.
All right, and just a hand raise. Thanks, everyone.
All right.
Good
night.
Good
Good to see you, Travis. Thank you, PAT.
you.
Leave meeting.
Recording